And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. Of course, it's Friday. It's your roundtable with the Finest Unfiltered. Good morning, everybody. I see the chat is already live. Thank you to the chat. Thank you, friends and listeners. Good morning, Marlon. Good morning, John. So we spoke pretty extensively on Wednesday this week when we spoke about Jennifer Lackard and her arrest and being the police mom of the year, or maybe just the mom of the year for 2026 for the entire country. But with that being said, it seems that there's far more when it comes to the Lackard family and some deep roots when it comes to crime. So we're going to expose that to you. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about also how other Black law enforcement officers have expressed their feelings about Jennifer Lackard being in the police field. And not only that, being promoted by Rocket Fuel and getting a position where she's in charge of the police department, yet has no police experience. So there are other Black law enforcement officers, not just law enforcement, that are tied with DEI, but Black law enforcement are speaking out also that they're tied with DEI. And it's exposed the weaknesses, the ineffectiveness of it, and the downfall and the decimation of police and law enforcement profession as a whole. So good morning. Let's jump into it. Marlon, John, I think this is going to be a hell of an episode. John, what do you think, brother?
Yeah, man. I thought we would wait a few weeks to bring this back up, but we started looking through the indictments of Jennifer Lackard's husband, and with the two different statements that the mayor had put out about her arrest, basically downplaying the arrest of her husband and saying that, she went through a rigorous background check. I think what we go through today, you're going to see that. I'm not saying the mayor's a liar, but she's definitely not being truthful. You know what I mean? Like the other thing that came out was that, one, I just want to say everyone's been arrested. The husband has since turned himself in. He turned himself in to the 4-4 precinct last night. Again, both Jennifer Lackard, now former deputy commissioner of police for the Mount Vernon Police Department, was accused of her and her husband helping their son Chase do a drive-by outside or around the block from the Bronx courthouse towards one of his targets. Now, we still have a lot of questions about the targets. We're going to go through a lot of those questions. Jennifer was arrested. The son was arrested. The husband was on the lam for a little bit, but turned himself in yesterday morning to the 4-4 Precinct Detective Squad. Obviously, like we said, Jennifer is highly politically connected to the Democratic Party across New York State. In New York City, she's heavily tied to the New York City Police Department and, the upper echelon of the New York City Police Department. As we've told you since this show's founding, is the policing has become infected with politics. Politics now runs the NYPD. Civilians run the NYPD. So really wild stuff when we look at Jennifer's history in North Carolina along with her husband. And I think, Marlon had pointed it out like on a private conversation where he was like, the son seems like such a good kid because, again, Jennifer was at all these police events with her children, her one son, her other son that was disabled. And he really did. The son really did look like a good kid. Like he looked like he just didn't have that like look in his face. He looked like a nice kid, taking pictures, hanging out with the cops, always smiling. And there was something that changed, but the husband was in prison for the last decade. And we're going to go back in time and explain why the husband was in prison. We're going to ask a lot of questions around the incident. So I don't know what we could go through first. I guess we could start with the incident or wherever you guys want to go. It doesn't matter to me. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to be answered. And again, I really do not think that this case should be handled in the Bronx District Attorney's Office. There is just too much that could go wrong. And what we've seen from Mount Vernon and what we've seen from New York City and the moves that we've seen from the New York City Police Department, even following her arrest, you got to say that there is a political motivation to kill this story, to die this story down in the media, and to probably make sure she doesn't serve a big jail sentence. I don't know what's going. I don't know if they could save a husband based upon his history, but you're going to see with his history that this woman should have been nowhere around policing. And we'll also bring in what Mount Vernon and Christopher Leon Johnson has exposed was that she was a sorority member. So she's a part of the same sorority as the mayor. So there was the nepotism, there was the cronyism, there was even the DEI. You know, I know all you black and brown people get very annoyed when I talk about DEI. But DEI is not code word for black people or Hispanic people or anything that or women. DEI is code word for you didn't earn it. And Jennifer Lackard didn't earn it. And you're gonna see from the family's criminal history, you're gonna see that she certainly, never mind that she also didn't earn it. She had no business being around here. So I know we gave her a lot of nicknames. Again, she's my front runner for 2026 Mother of the Year. Post said she's Mommy and Clyde. We're gonna deep dive today into Ma Lackard's crime family, and that's it. So let's go. Let's do it. Marlon, what's up, brother?
Yo, good morning, guys. Yeah. Morning, those of you in the chat. Yeah, I'm sorry about that reverb, but it seems to be getting a little audio issues again. But yeah, happy Friday, and like John said, there's a lot to talk about this.
Well, it's good now. It's good.
Yeah. Those cops those people who get insulted when we talk about DEI, that's because they think in terms of collectivism, as though we're talking negatively about the community. When really you should be looking at this and understanding how much this guy has hurt the community throughout the years, and we'll show you. As he's as I was I was telling John that this guy's like a regular Stringer Bell. If you guys have seen The Wire, and if you haven't, by the way, you really should, because that show is kind of spot on. But we'll go through it as we go around the table again. Morning, Eric.
Good morning, brother. So, we often talk about you can't blame someone for their family, right? You can't. I don't think a cop should be not given a chance to become a police officer if they have a family history that might not be the best demonstration of family matters. This isn't Steve Urkel's show of family matters and it's a wholesome family. Not everyone grows up in a wholesome family. It's just a reality. However, we're talking about Mama Bear here. It's far different if you're a young man or a young woman and you grow up and maybe your mother or father maybe didn't walk the right path. Maybe a brother or sister. But we're talking about Mama Bear, right? Mama Bear is in charge of the home, right? Mom's supposed to know what's going on in that home. And damn well. It's not like your husband got caught cheating or something like that. Your husband was out there doing dirt, which caused him almost a decade of doing jail time. And so she was surrounded by this. And so we have to ask, what was this so-called rigorous extensive background? Because John, Marlon, and myself, you guys remember when we went through the background check to get into the NYPD, you got probed like you were going to the proctologist. And not only did they probe you, they probed your family members, they probed your neighbors, they probed people that you haven't seen in 20 years. If you remember when we first got on, there were people that probably you haven't seen in 20 years were given an opportunity to make a statement or give references. And so yet we were responsible for knowing the people that were around us, or at least knowing that, hey, if the people that were around you were not on the up and up, that you have to sever ties. And so did Jennifer Lackard ever sever ties? We're talking about Mama Bear. I think this is a big difference from a young man, a young woman growing up in a home. Is she responsible when her son leaves the home of every move that he makes? No. But now we're going to show you that not only is Mama Bear in charge of the home, but according to the papers now, it's alleged that Jennifer Lackard was actually texting her son on advice on how to evade the police and how to operate. I mean, we're talking about some devious stuff here. We're talking about someone who really manipulated her position, who, first of all, should have never been there. She never had her boots on the ground. That doesn't make someone corrupt. But what we're telling you is there's no standards here. And there was absolutely not a rigorous background, because if there was, she wouldn't have seen the inside of any precinct in New York City of Mount Vernon. So this is absolutely insane. So again, she allegedly there's text messages between her and her son on how to evade the police. I mean, it goes on to say in the alleged arrest that her son gets in the car and they already have it prepared and ready that the son changes his clothes in the car. This is some devious stuff. And then she takes over at the wheel. Why? Because if she gets stopped, is anyone going to challenge her? No. So before we go any further with this, I just want to say, because the upper echelon, we said, they're hobnobbing with Jennifer Lackard and they were cozying up and they know each other. And it's very likely, it's highly likely that she spoke to members of the upper echelon before she committed this act. I'm not saying they're in on it, but it's highly likely she spoke to them. However, I just want to say to the cops with the boots on the ground that solved this case, outstanding. That is the NYPD we once knew. Great police work. So, Marlon, John, this is some case. John, what are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, well, like the more I thought about it, like after we did the show, like there's no way that people in the 4-4 hadn't had interactions with her and her son in the past. It's impossible. It's impossible that there weren't dealings from the upper echelon of the NYPD with this woman. It's impossible that there weren't a ton of signs in Mount Vernon itself of what was wrong. It's literally impossible to me. Like I don't see any way that the mayor's statement holds true. Obviously there is, I believe she texted one of the statements that got released is she texted the son like while he was in there, you just can't do it right out in the front. Like telling him like, don't. So she knew there was going to be a shooting. She knew he had an illegal firearm. She's with the husband. Right. And if you're there plotting with that husband like that, she's like his ride or die, bro. Like she waited for him 10 years while he was in prison, bro. You think she like no one's going to tell me you're not going to give me the babe in the woods routine, Jennifer. I'm not getting the babe in the woods routine. Like you knew everything that was going. You heard the conversations. You heard the phone calls. You knew where the money was coming from. You knew the dealings and so like just to even go back on that, like, you put yourself in that car, that means you knew about it all. You knew about it all 10 years ago. You knew about it all that day. You have your own son, is going to try to do a hit on one of his rivals. Now, we still don't know what the beef was with the rival and why he was going after him, because that's important, right? Because was the rival actually a rival, or was it just a witness against him? Was it one of his buddies? Or was it somebody that he actually was a rival for? And if it was somebody that's a witness, how do they know that individual is a witness? Was there information that was leaked to the police department? The other thing I find curious is they drive a Chrysler minivan. I got a couple of questions about that minivan. That when we go back in time and we go back to North Carolina, you're going to see one of the main cars in that. In one of the indictments that comes up is a Chrysler Pacifica. Now, when the husband, James, was in North Carolina, he owned a customization business. One of the customization things that he did was install traps inside of vehicles. For those of you that aren't familiar with law enforcement, what a trap is, it's like a secret compartment inside the car. And they're pretty high tech, some of them are pretty low tech. Some of them could be you have to set the radio station to a certain channel and you have to put the air conditioner on and you got to do all these different things and then the trap will open. Some of them are just literally you take the vent out of the car and you stick the gun in it. Like it depends the model of the car, it depends what it is. But to me, when I think of like Chrysler Pacificas, I always just flash back to the late 90s and I flash back to white kids moving heroin in their mom's minivan. White kids moving crack in their mom's minivan. Black dudes that don't look like gangsters or women or family with the kids in the back moving heroin in the minivan. Because obviously, you're not going to deal drugs and come out in this flashy car. I mean, some people do it, but they don't last that long on the street. The people that last a long time that are involved in trafficking, they find ways to deceive the police. And so I'm sitting here. My main question now is the Pacifica, did it have a trap in it? That's what I want to know. And I'm going to say more than likely that Pacifica had a trap in it. And we don't know that information yet, right? I'm going to say more than likely it had a trap in it where they kept guns. and probably even drugs, because as we go through this, what you're going to see is, in my opinion, what it looks like is there a nexus between the slutty gang and the father, and he was using them to transport. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, look, I don't have any proof of this other than just what we're watching, just what we know from the past and what occurred and what went down now. But I think mom knew all about it. And I don't see how anyone's going to sit there and play, oh, no, she was just helping her son do a drive-by. She was in the car. She switched seats with the husband so that she could evade the police. Oh, it's me. I'm deputy commissioner. No, I know everybody. I know Ben Gurley. I know this one. I know that one. I know Darcel Clark. How doesn't she know Darcel Clark? How is this not a conflict of interest that Darcel Clark's prosecuting her? And so, like, there's so much there. Who'd she text prior? Who'd she text after? What people, high-ranking people in New York City, in the DA's office, in the police department, who did she text prior and after? Because I think you're going to see there's a lot of weird things that happened here. The other thing, when I think about what happened, does not look like a long-term investigation to me at all. Looks like to me that this was the work of street crime, or whatever they call themselves now, neighborhood safety policing, probably mixed with gun violence suppression, maybe mixed with the detective squad. This looked like the boots on the ground that handled the shooting right away, did a great job, pieced it together and got it right back to her and moved real quick. Because if it was long-term, everyone's like, oh, they were probably up on a wire. They were probably this. And I think we kicked it around. But like, thinking about it, if they were up on a wire, I don't know that they would have arrested them that quick. I don't know that they would have went after them that quick and closed that long-term investigation down. So I think this was the work of the rank and file of the New York City Police Department. And I just want to say, I'm glad, because I feel like if it was a long-term investigation, some of this stuff could have got squashed at the upper levels and nobody would have ever known about it. So, there's a lot of stuff here, man. It's like when we just talk about that day, but I mean, I think we should take a trip back into time too, because I think it's really important when we look at this.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I could have seen a phone call being made somewhere up, considering that the mayor went to the same sorority as Ma Lackard. Yeah, and again, I mentioned that this guy was a regular Stringer Bell. So for those of you who didn't watch The Wire, right? Stringer Bell was he wasn't your common drug dealer. Okay, he was very business minded. He's the guy that supplies the street guys with their product. Meanwhile, he also operates multiple businesses which are kind of fronts for his fronts, and they give him the ability to launder his ill-gotten gains, right? But very business minded guy, very smart, very he knows how to move around in the business world, and he's all about his business. Okay, and he's all about laying low in the background while the foot soldiers do the work up front. So again, it's a great show, and if you have no idea about policing, I would say one of the places to start would be to watch that show. Okay, and I'm bringing him up because what Stringer Bell does is very similar to what this guy did in real life, okay, and who he is, and we'll show you again as we come around. But this is important to note because in a lot of the cases that came up, his name kind of floated in the background, especially prior to being caught. And he also still has businesses in North Carolina right now. Okay. It seems to me that he has a pattern of starting these businesses with partners, or what he does is he'll lease the business from a partner, from a friend or associate. And so when you look at a lot of the government records, his name isn't on it. But again, we'll show you as we come around again and we dig into North Carolina. But I'm gonna say, John, that I do believe the mayor is a liar. Okay, I do believe she's a liar, because there is no way you're telling me any investigator just did his basic homework on this and didn't think that, hey, I'm not so sure we should allow her in there. Okay. Because had you done your basic due diligence, you'd realize, hey, her husband has a history of starting businesses that eventually end up as connected to criminality, and could have very well just been fronts for criminality to begin with, you know? And in fact, I do believe that the Ivy House, which was like the rehab center that was co-founded by him too, including Miss Lackard, uh, um, I'm starting to think that it was his brainchild. Yeah. And because again, I look at this guy's history of starting businesses that end up operating as fronts for his criminality. So there's no way that you can look back at his record and think that, number one, she didn't know anything about him. He already did a stint in federal prison back in 1998. And there is also no way that she could have not known that he was he was running a criminal enterprise while, the rehab center was operating. And once you look at that and you think, well, there's no way she could have known that, then there's no way you're thinking to yourself, this lady should be allowed into the police department and should have access to the upper echelon of Mount Vernon's PD, including authority over the cops there, and access to, and don't tell me she didn't have access to databases up there either.
Well, of course she had access to databases. She was in charge. I think The Wire is a great example. It's a great demonstration and great reflection because, first of all, The Wire is an awesome show. But who else did Stringer Bell also cozy up to? Politicians, right? So I'm curious, Jennifer Lackard's husband, did he have access to politicians in the same way Jennifer Lackard did? And I would say most likely he did. And what's pretty interesting about this also is the mayor's absolutely lied. There's no doubt in my mind I would put my last dollar that the mayor lied about this. Because what kind of rigorous investigation could there have done, or a background check here? I want to know. Because at least for the NYPD, I can't speak for Mount Vernon. I was never a cop in Mount Vernon, but I can speak for the NYPD. The NYPD, John, Marlon, myself, when we got on the job, it was made clear to us, if you have any family members that are imprisoned, that you cannot have any contact with them unless you get permission. Remember, you would actually have to. I never had any family members that were in prison, but I do know cops that did have family members that were in prison, and they had a right of 49, and you had 7 days to wait to get an answer from your commanding officer if you could actually visit that person. And this had to go through the chain of command. If you guys remember, it's usually on almost every test, every promotional exam. So I want to know, did Jennifer Lackard, during the time that her husband was imprisoned, did she visit her husband? Did she collect calls from her husband? I'm curious because it's very possible that she might have been running errands for him while he was in jail, because it appears to me, based on those indictments, he was some type of shot caller. And that's what Stringer Bell was. Stringer Bell was a shot caller who worked the streets, right? What does he say in The Wire, right? He works the corners, but he's not a corner man. He was very articulate, right? He made relationships with businessmen. He made relationships with politicians. Extremely smart. He was able to work the street angle, and he worked these politicians, and he worked the business, and he showed how they all weave together, and they all had the mindset, and that was getting the green. So I'm curious, did she have connections with her husband while he was in jail? I want to know if anyone was ever listened to those calls. I'm sure I would put my last dollar that she had accepted calls or called her husband, or even possibly visited him during almost a decade of being imprisoned before she became the highest ranking member in the Department of Public Safety Commissioner for Mount Vernon, with no boots on the ground experience. So how could there be a rigorous background check when she never had any law enforcement experience to investigate? Her work was outside as a social reformist. She was an advocate. Those are kind of tough those things are kind of tough to, unless you just scrub social media, but those things are kind of tough to investigate. She didn't have a law enforcement experience. She doesn't have an actual business resume to investigate. So what background check was that? Because there's a lot of information here that's lacking to investigate also. So there's no doubt in my mind that the mayor lied. So I think that they have to go back. I would like to know is what exactly her relationship with her husband during that decade while he was in jail. Did she ever run any errands for him? Did anyone ever listen to those calls? Did she visit him? Did she visit him while she was the? Did she speak to him while she was the deputy of public safety for Mount Vernon? These are questions that have to be answered. So rigorous background check, my ass.
We read the original statement that the mayor put out, and she basically defended which she didn't even defend the hiring of her. She just said, "Oh, this has nothing to do with the Mount Vernon Police Department. Don't worry about it. She's taken care of. This has nothing to do with the wellness precinct or anything. We're good. We're gonna move on from here." And then after we did the episode, they got so many calls from reporters saying, "Wait, how was she hired?" Like these guys are asking, like, how did she get hired, right? And so all these reporters started asking the question. So then the mayor was forced, in my opinion, it shows just how sloppy their public relations is, and just what a mess it is over there in Mount Vernon. She puts out a second statement, and this is a statement: the recent criminal charges involving former Deputy Commissioner of Wellness and Reform Jennifer Lackard have raised questions about the city's hiring process and the circumstances surrounding her employment. Jennifer Lackard was hired in July 2020 as the second Deputy Commissioner of Special Initiatives. The position was created during a pivotal period of 21st century policing criminal justice reform and nationwide calls for police reform. Although this was not a sworn law enforcement position, it was a civilian leadership role established to help strengthen trust between the police department and community while supporting procedural justice and officer wellness. AKA, she was in charge of my police department. Miss Lackard brought nearly 15 years of professional experience in human services, including mental health, substance abuse treatment, DWI intervention, re-entry services, community and coalition building, as well as criminal justice reform. While the position was civilian in nature, Ms. Lackard was required to undergo a rigorous background investigation and employment screening, including fingerprinting, medical clearance, a driving abstract, financial disclosures, and a criminal background check. Based on the background investigations, she met the qualifications for a civilian position. There was no information that disqualified her from employment. As part of the hiring process, information regarding her husband's prior criminal history was disclosed and reviewed and deemed not to be disqualifying for her civilian position because she's my friend. No employer can predict future personal conduct. Well, I would kind of agree, but an employer can look at someone's past and kind of predict future, especially when you're given such authority in the police department. Mount Vernon has faced challenges before, and we have always responded with accountability, transparency, and resilience. Just so everyone knows, Jennifer Lackard was the 5th member of the Mount Vernon Police Department arrested so far in 2026. We remain committed to those principles as this matter proceeds through criminal justice system, and we will continue strengthening the institutions that serve our residents. So she completely downplays, we looked at it. We looked at her husband's criminal history, and we didn't think anything was weird with it. And it's like, well, a lot of the stuff that she was doing, her husband was heavily connected to, including the non-for-profit, her wellness work, her reentry work, her substance abuse work. And it appears that her husband was involved in a major drug trafficking racket stemming out of North Carolina. And to me, I would say there's definitely a connection and something that needs to be looked at with her. What was her involvement in it? What was her involvement in it? And any police department should have took heed at this. I mean, so let's just go all the way back. The first time that I could find, and Marlon, don't feel bad. Correct me if I'm wrong. The first thing that I see James Lackard appear in is that he has a cell phone. He owns a store that's involved in a cell phone cloning allegation, right? Like they're cloning cell phones, and there's also being accused of running out of that store, dealing heroin out of that store. So, and that store is being ran by, and that's it back as far as I think in March of '96. And this name I want you to remember. And that store, the person that was arrested out of it was two people. It was Timothy Kevin Robinson and Sheldon Robinson. But Timmy Robinson's name appears again. So there's a connection there. Now, Timmy Robinson in '93 in Greensboro was arrested for doing a drive-by outside of a nightclub in Greensboro, North Carolina. Robinson and others were charged with 2 counts, each of assault with a deadly weapon and intent to kill. Police reportedly observed a firearm being discharged from the suspect's vehicle before making the arrest. So he gets arrested 3 years prior, Timmy, and now he's working with James in James's business that he owns. And James is the co-owner of this other business called with Timmy Robinson called MVP Clothing. Mon, you got anything else on the cell phone before I go further on that, or was I right? Like that's the first thing I could find on him.
Yeah. You're spot on. Yeah.
So I mean, right there, it's like, all right, he's a businessman. He's around all these shady dudes. Like, but he's not really involved. He doesn't get arrested, right? He doesn't get caught up in the cell phone cloning investigation. He doesn't get caught up in the drug trafficking. He doesn't get caught up in the shooting, in the drive-by shooting, right? Now, in May 98, right? May 1998, Greensboro police execute a search warrant which involves James Lackard. At that warrant, they get 3 kilos of cocaine and multiple firearms were seized. Lackard was federally convicted and sentenced to 52 months in federal prison. Investigators also describe hidden vehicle compartments being used by his associates during that investigation. So now you start to see that he gets arrested for having kilos on him, and we don't get there yet with the business where he's doing that. But he's arrested, but him and his associates got traps in their cars. Moving heroin, drive-by shootings. I mean, doesn't sound like somebody that you really want to settle down, have a family with, have kids with, get a nice household together, open up a non-for-profit with. I mean, just based on those 2 things right there, I mean, I don't know how any city is gonna do business with this organization, but how could you do business with it? Because like I said, criminal justice reform and DEI was cover for people like this to like basically flout all of the rules, right? We're going to flout all of the rules and we're going to do business with these justice involved individuals because, you know, they got the street cred. So we've spoken on that before, but you would think this would preclude you from being in high steps of police leadership, especially you're married to the guy and you've been his ride or die for a very long time.
Yeah. You would think, right? You would think. And again, you know, this is just us having no access to databases that you do in law enforcement. You know, there are multiple databases that would give you a lot more information than we did. This is just off the internet, right?
And I'm sure those case notes would tell a lot of different things. And
absolutely.
they would show you that she was no babe in the woods.
Absolutely. So again, you're going to
tell Karen, don't play babe in the woods.
Karen.
Yeah. So again, you're going to tell us that there was a thorough investigation done here and the investigators didn't spot anything, you know, any of this. Yeah. I don't believe that for a second. Okay. I think, again, that the mayor is lying and that there was some shenanigans being pulled behind the scenes to allow her to get into that department. And I'm going to say that, keep in mind, she went to the NYPD Citizens Police Academy. Let me see if I could quickly pull it up here. So I'm not too familiar with the background investigation for that, but I do know a basic one is conducted. And again, if you're doing a basic investigation, the husband is going to come up and you'd be you wouldn't be much of a good investigator if you didn't say, you know what, let me just dig into the husband a little bit. Okay. So it's not just Mount Vernon that kind of screwed up here. It's the NYPD screwed up there. Okay. Because if you're an investigator and you find this out and you dig into the husband and you put two and two together, what should you do? Okay. What should you do? Naturally, you should send this out to some of the people in her circle there and raise questions about, what kind of, what kind of person she is and whether, you know, uh, she's being honest and whether we can actually trust her with all the information that goes back to her. Because keep in mind, she had been on the, I think this is just about before she was leaving the um, community board 9 in the Bronx, which is in the 4-3. So again, she had access to the CEO, to the supervisors there. And again, Chief Gurley was the CO at that time. So the point here is that there are multiple failures here, and I can't, I think you'd be a fool if you're not thinking that there's more to this behind the scenes that allowed this to go on.
So talk about Jennifer Lackard here. So should her relationship with her husband immediately disqualify her for a job? I mean, in fact, let's say, for instance, a woman is married to someone and the husband goes to prison, but then they cut off all ties and they weren't aware of their alleged activities. No, but there has to be an extensive background check. So that's why I said, what exactly was examined here? What was a rigorous investigation? What did they actually look at? And John read it out to you, right? The mayor, very simple. I mean, almost like just for a basic job. Fingerprinting, driver's license check, just her arrest record, her criminal background. That's not very much. When you went to the police department, to the NYPD, at least back when I went on, January 2004, same thing for John, July 2004. It was very extensive. Marlon, same thing for you. It was a very extensive. They probed your entire life. And extensively, they did a deep dive into specific matters. And if you even had a parking ticket, you had to explain that, write about it, give a detailed timeline around that parking ticket. So I just want to go over some of the timeline here just to show how could she not have any clue what's going on. I mean, James and Jennifer reportedly involved in a re-entry behavioral work together, right? North Carolina. That was around 2007. 2012, James is arrested in a federal drug case. 2013, he pleads guilty to heroin distribution conspiracy for more than 121 months. Doesn't serve the entire amount. But now 2020, Jennifer Lackard is appointed as a deputy police commissioner in Mount Vernon, right? 2020, that's not that far off. So in those 7 years, what exactly, from 2013, when her husband is convicted, to 2020, what exactly did they examine? And that's why I said, did they examine phone calls between her and her husband? Did they examine visits? This should have been an extensive probe. Just your relationship with family members shouldn't bar you from employment. But we're talking about not just the boots on the ground employment. And we're not talking about just a civilian position. We're talking about a civilian position that holds extreme amount of weight, that she has authority and access over uniformed members in the Mount Vernon Police Department, and especially a police department like Mount Vernon, which is much smaller than the NYPD. They could do a huge deep dive. That's a city of 70,000 people in comparison to a city of 8.5 million people for New York City. Far different. So her husband served a lengthy federal sentence. What exactly did they probe? And apparently, from what John read, based on what the mayor said, not much. Almost like she was applying for Home Depot with some very insignificant employment. We're talking about running a police department. And to say it's a civilian role and just kind of, make it seem like it doesn't need that probe, it's absolutely a farce. And think about the access that she had. She had access to the upper management, the NYPD. She had access to all the police departments in Westchester, right? Mount Vernon is very interesting, right? Because it sits directly between very affluent communities in Westchester, and also it borders the Bronx. So, John, as we said earlier, there's no doubt in my mind that there was associations in the 4-4 precinct, especially the 4-7 precinct. That's the border of Mount Vernon. There's no doubt. What I'd also like to know is, was her son ever driven a Chrysler Pacifica or a Chrysler van in the confines of the 4.4, the 4.7? Was he ever stopped? What interactions did he have with the police, if any? I'm sure if he was, I'm sure he mentioned his mother. So I'm sure that helped also, right? These are things.
Very good point.
These are things I would like the police department to probe into. So the fact that Mount Vernon had come out with a statement so prematurely to say that she had absolutely no connections to her employment, that none of these alleged crimes have any connection, well, is absolutely short-sighted. How could that be? How do we not know that her son was driving a vehicle and stopped in the Bronx or Mount Vernon and, spot on, and used her weight and used her leverage to help him? I mean, clearly, and I'm sure it did. How do we know that? A good prediction of the future is a reflection of the past. And what did they do during this alleged crime? Allegedly, she takes over the wheel because she's not going to be stopped. Or if she is going to be stopped, she's going to be let go. So I'm sure the same weight held for her son also. These are questions I want to know. I want to know also, I want to see her wallet. How many PBA cards, not PBA cards, how many cards did she have in her wallet? Did she have a nice shield or a business card in her wallet for Benjamin Gurley? Did she have a nice shield ornament or a nice card, a courtesy card from maybe Keon Ramsey? I want to know. I want to know if she had any of these ornaments, because if someone gets arrested and they have a cop's PBA card or some type of ornament, that cop gets probed. So I want to know, anyone in the upper management, if she had your business card in her wallet, I want to make sure you get probed too. And Winston Faison, Grand Rising, brother. If you don't like it, too bad.
Yeah. Someone said that Spike Lee should make a movie about this. We're gonna make a movie about it. We're in contact with 50 Cent. I think he likes the idea. We might run it behind the Power series. So Eric touched on, but I want to jump back. There was something that we missed. October 2010, right? There's an Arizona heroin seizure, right? According to one of the affidavits that we were able to obtain, right? DEA affidavit, Arizona authorities stopped this guy, Jonathan Eastwood. Investigators allege that approximately 11 pounds of heroin were discovered in a hidden compartment. There were cell phones, GPS devices, and text message was seized. Subsequent investigation already linked communications to guess who? James Lackard. Recorded jail calls allegedly referenced Lackard providing financial assistance to Eastwood when he was incarcerated. Why would he be doing that? And I believe that the case that I'm talking about here, yeah, it is. So this is what sparks the investigation into Lackard, because what happens is that 11 pounds of heroin. So what happens is they intercept why can't I think of a name? Now, I guess you could say like a tow truck. I guess you could say a tow truck or a truck pulling a car, and the truck that it was pulling a vehicle. The vehicle was owned by who? James Lackard. What was inside the vehicle? 11 pounds of heroin. So what I read out wasn't that, you know what I mean? So it wasn't that accurate what I read out. But so what happens is they intercept this 11 pounds of heroin, and it's a direct correlation as well as communication, and that sparks the entire investigation into Lackard. So you could already see the movements, right? You could already see what's coming up. And again, he's married. Who's he married to? He's married to Ma Lackard, or the Mother of the Year. Or honestly, she should be the Wife of the Year too. I don't think my wife would be this loyal to me. Holy shit.
You don't think so?
I don't think she's trafficking heroin with me across the country. No, I don't.
You're talking about right
again, now there's nothing tying her into any of this. But again, you live with somebody, you're with them, you have children with them. How are you not seeing these signs? And if you're not, do you have business being in a police department anywhere in this country? And the answer to that question is no. And again, she's supposed to be a public safety expert. She's supposed to be a community safety expert. She's supposed to be a criminal justice expert. So you're not seeing the signs that something's going on with your husband and he's not being forthcoming? Like, I'll guarantee one thing. I'll tell you one thing I know about women. They're better investigators than the FBI, than the DEA, than the CIA, than the NSA, than the New York City Police Department, than any detective that's out there. Do not tell me for 1 second. When the DEA started investigating Lackard, his wife already had the profile, the case closed years ago. She already had his files good to go, probably had bank accounts ready, everything. So I'm not buying, again, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it from Mount Vernon that they did it. They did a good background check. Doesn't make sense. They couldn't have. They absolutely couldn't have. So that begins. So that whole thing sparks. It sparks the entire surveillance of James Lackard. It starts from 2012, October of 2010 to October of 2011, and during that. Investigators conducted physical surveillance, electronic surveillance. They monitored of his residences, right? Multiple, and surveillance of businesses. Because the other thing that's not really alleged, but's kind of stated when you read through there, is that more than likely some of those residences that were unoccupied appeared to be stash houses. And according to the affidavit that was obtained, Lackard and his wife were both observed operating from several different residences. Surveillance was also conducted at the businesses, and they believe that they were tied to the overall organization. And the organization, I mean, the Marlon crime family. Marlon, you back?
No, just me and you, brother.
All right. So then the next thing is 2010 to 2012, there's a confidential source, according to the DEA affidavit. According to the source, 3 confidential sources, meaning they arrested people, they flipped, they turned on James, right? According to them, James Lackard supplied quantities of heroin. What does that mean? The DEA did controlled buys on him. What's a controlled buy? They arrest your friend flips on you, or your partner flips on you, and now they're coming to do a buy with DEA money, and it's all being recorded and you're being surveilled. They're saying that, according to that affidavit, that he maintained multiple different heroin suppliers. He had multiple different couriers which delivered heroin and collected money, and that there were discussions involving prices between $40,000 and $55,000 per kilogram. Hidden compartments were already alleged installed in vehicles for smuggling drugs or currency. So again, at that time, he's also running a business. Part of the surveillance that the DEA is doing, Lackard's running a business that it's a vehicle customization business, and he speaks to the sources about, hey, look, I could do the installs in these vehicles. I could do the installs, and also on that same affidavit, that's when the dude rolls up, and the DA is about to do a takedown on him, but they don't want to spook Lackard, so they back off on the takedown, and that dude's driving a Pacifica, right? And so they back off and they just surveil what happens there. So again, this is wild, and they eventually they take him down. They on May 30th of 2012, they do their first controlled heroin purchase, right? DEA investigators allege that the confidential sources, now they arranged to purchase heroin from Timothy Robinson. Remember that name from the cell phone store, right? That he co-owned an MVP Clothing. Now, Robinson was observed visiting Taj Wheeler's residence before the sale. Wheeler and Robinson allegedly met again shortly before Robinson delivered approximately 32.7 grams of heroin to the confidential source. Phone records showed that Robinson and Wheeler were communicating through the transaction. On June 7, 2012, the second controlled buy happens. According to the investigators then, Robinson agreed to sell 2 ounces of heroin. Surveillance observed Robinson meeting Taj Wheeler. Robinson later approximately 95.5 grams of suspected heroin to the confidential source. June 15, 2012, surveillance connects Wheeler and Lackard, right? And which we've been said. So he was already connected to Robinson. Now we see he's connected to Taj Wheeler as well. So he's not touching his hand. DEA surveillance observes Taj Wheeler driving a gray Chrysler Pacifica registered to him. Wheeler's at Unlimited Customs, identified as one of James Lackard's businesses. Investigators observed Wheeler speaking with Lackard. Wheeler was later followed to the vicinity of another controlled heroin transaction before the surveillance ended. In July to August of 2012, confidential sources, again, allegations continue. They say it alleges that James Lackard requested to obtain kilogram quantities of heroin from a controlled sale, discussed paying 40 to 55,000 per kilogram, discussed installing hidden compartments in vehicles, and conducted meetings at Unlimited Customs LLC involving components associated with the hidden compartments. So then in August of 2012, August 8th of 2012, it's funny that is, because that is tomorrow, right? Today's August 7th, right? So August 8th of 2012, 2 separate federal criminal complaints were filed in the Middle District of North Carolina. James Brian Lackard was charged with conspiracy to distribute 1 kilogram or more of heroin. The complaint incorporates the surveillance, the wire and phone evidence, which we don't have access to, which I wish we did, because I guarantee it would link even crazier to this. GPS information, confidential sources, earlier criminal history. They link in the Arizona heroin seizure and the hidden compartment evidence. Taj Wheeler, at that same time, he's charged with distribute 100 grams or more of heroin, 3 controlled heroin purchases, telephone analysis, statements from Timmy Robinson, because now Timmy flips on them, I guess, and then observations connecting Wheeler to Lackard. So, I mean, it's pretty wild, dude. It's a lengthy thing. And now this dude, upon that, serves 10 years in federal penitentiary. Lackard. 10 years.
Yeah. So if I could just quickly let's go back to the early 90s for a quick second, right? John mentioned this, the 4 perps that were collared in a parking lot because the Greensboro officer, observed a firearm being fired from the vehicle, right? Timothy Robinson is mentioned that. As John said, Timothy is a good buddy of Lackard because they both own the store, right? They were both partners in the store, in the cell phone store. And keep in mind also that cell phone cloning was relatively new, a relatively new thing back then. So it's this
was the first of its kind back then.
Yeah.
Yep. This was the first.
I think Lackard is I don't know who he's connected to, but I mean, it definitely says later on in the criminal complaint for 2012 that he was dealing with Veracruz, some Mexican cartel guys from Veracruz. So more than likely, I mean, you just don't. I mean, a street guy picking up cell phone cloning. But my point in bringing up this was that it's mentioned in here that that Robinson and the other perps that were with him in the vehicle were believed to have come from New York City, even though they supplied North Carolina addresses. That these guys had an nexus to New York City. I'm bringing that up just to show you that we don't know, but you have to wonder if Lackard himself, had some sort of nexus to New York City too. And considering his history of trafficking drugs, and considering that Greensboro in particular and North Carolina as a whole is connected to a lot of major interstate throughways, I-85, I-40, 73, 74. And of course you have I-95 and all that. From the late 90s, it started to become like a transportation hub, or due to all those, to its proximity to all those interstates. So considering his history of doing that, I have questions about what he was doing in New York, ever since he got out of jail. And I have questions since he clearly went back and forth, because he does have a business currently in North Carolina, and he is pictured in the newspaper, operating that business with his partner. So he went back and forth. And I have serious questions about what he was doing while he was going back and forth, especially if he was operating that Chrysler, which, again, he has a history of putting traps in vehicles. But these are all questions that if an investigator looks at her background, right, you have to ask these questions because, again, she's a huge advocate. I mean, she still maintain a relationship with the husband, and let me put this on the screen for a quick second. And this is her talking about advocating for prisoners to come back to be rehabilitated into society. Okay. Maybe I'll play this a little bit later, but this is gives you some background into what she did in her in her role
Play
in
it, bro. We
the
want to hear it.
reentry
Play
program.
it. Play it. Play it. We'll see what she says.
All right, let me pull it up. I got so many screens up. It's like I yeah. Now you want to go, Eric? Let me go find that screen. I got like so many windows up right now. I got to look through all of them.
That's why I'm going to get a second screen, because on the one screen it's you definitely lose track. With that being said, I want to say Mount Vernon has been plagued by corruption for years, and it's sad because it's a predominantly black city, and the politicians are predominantly black. So is the police force, and it's been plagued by DEI even further going. Now, when we look into Jennifer Lackard, I think the mayor is completely irresponsible for accepting and saying that was a rigorous background check. Just sounded like just going for any old job, checking a driver's license, checking a criminal background check to see if she was arrested. That's not enough. We're talking about someone that was in charge of the police force. And John, you made a good point. They consider her a police expert. So as a police expert, you think you would be able to make an analysis in your own home. Well, let's go beyond that even further. We're talking about a rigorous background check. She's in a two household income earning home, right? They should have asked her, or part of the investigation, like, how does your husband earn a living? And how, did she have to present tax forms for her husband and things of that nature? I think, his extensive history of owning business should have been vetted as well, because what is her connection to those businesses? Because ultimately they have to ensure, being in such an illustrious position in Mount Vernon, at the height of policing in that law enforcement agency, they would have to make sure that there's no conflicts of interest and check his taxes. I do think that would be part of the investigation and probe, and to find out, does she have any connections to his businesses also? Does that conflict with her in her position in Mount Vernon? So again, John says Babe in the Woods, just like you're watching the movie Goodfellas, and when the cops arrest Karen, they say, hey, Karen, don't play Babe in the Woods. And what they're saying is that she was the wife of a gangster, right? You're the wife of Henry Hill. He's a gangster all these years. You know what's going on. And the same thing goes for Marlon Lackard. Your husband's a gangster. You know what's going on. You know he brings home money. Where does he get that money? You can't completely say you have no idea. First of all, he spends a good amount of his time outside New York. So they should be asking, what does your husband do outside New York? Well, he has a business. What does he do there? And apparently, it's not even that. He's not even a small-time petty criminal. He has some serious connections. He may be exactly that. He may be string a bell. He's got connections to legitimate businesses. He's got connections to perpetrators. He's got connections to potentially cartel. So we have to know, what are those connections to politicians, if he has any? Do those politicians have connections to New York? And yes, I-95, Marlon, you're spot on, is the pipeline for illegal firearms running back and forth from New York to North Carolina and to Florida. It's the pipeline, not for everyone, but it's the pipeline to move drugs. There's no doubt about it. I-95, I-495, these are I-290, these are pipelines moving drugs. So, of course, this would be a federal case. And so for her for them to really not probe her and to say that was the investigation, just a background check of that sort, that should be alarming right now to anyone right now, especially in the law enforcement community. Who else in Mount Vernon right now potentially has a inept or a lacking investigative background check that it's in a high position? Who else? Because we have several arrests where in 2026 and 2025 and 2024 for corruption. And we have politicians also in Mount Vernon. So what were her ties? There's a lot of questions that are unanswered here. We should only point fingers at James Lackard. But what we're doing right now is giving you a timeline and showing you a background and showing you that there was absolutely not a rigorous background check. If any, it was very, very little check. It was just check the box. That's all it was. So if we go back and look at this timeline, not only that, we talk about 1996. You see that cell phone store, they're cloning phones. This is the first in that state. It even goes, it says in that report, I read in some of that indictment, that they were shocked by it because this was something that was happening in New York and DC, and this was the first to happen in that state. Think about it. He's such an illustrious criminal. He's the first to get involved in cloning phones, not a small-time petty criminal selling dimes and nickels, nickel bags. This is a legitimate perp who has a circle and a pipeline to some high-end criminals. And so this idea that Jennifer Lackard had no idea, I don't believe it. Neither do you.
Yeah. Where's he getting access to the
Exactly.
tools to do all that? It's that connection to New York again, if you ask me. So so this is part of her Jennifer Lackard's social advocacy, right? So let's this is her husband on the far right. This is I believe is a picture when he got out in 2019. It might have been early 2020, as a matter of fact, when he got out. I'm not sure about the exact date, but it was around 2019, 2020 when he got out. And this is him. This is a 2025 picture of him operating another business in Greensboro, North Carolina. It's a food truck. Man's enterprising, all right. We always talk, if people in the hood would take a lot of the all these street smarts and apply it to legitimate businesses, you know how well they would do. Instead you have the man obviously knows how to operate businesses, okay, and he knows how to make something. I mean, here's a guy who did time multiple times, and yet he still manages to come up with a new business, and there he is again. So what would happen if this man just stayed on the straight and narrow and applied that business acumen to legitimate business instead of as a front for criminality?
It's funny you say that, Marlon, because I used to always say the local drug dealers, we're not talking about the string of bells like James Lackard here, but I used to say they could stand a foot post better than the cops. They would stand outside all day in the freezing cold in front of a gate that's closed down because the store's closed for hours. And man, why don't you guys just become cops one day? You guys can stand a better foot post than cops. You're absolutely right. Spot on. If we could put that in a positive direction, they'd be entrepreneurs.
Yeah, Ben. Wait. I see this. Ben, guy, get out of your small bubble. Okay, we're talking about Lackard here and her husband. Okay, and I mentioned the hood because we have problems in a lot of inner city Black communities. Okay, crime wise. Okay, so I put that out there because these communities. We need, for America to go forward, we need a lot of these inner city communities, these cities that look like shitholes, like Baltimore, parts of St. Louis, parts of, of course, Detroit, which is kind of moving up, parts of upstate New York, Newburgh. We need these cities to get better if America is gonna, be a better place. Okay, so get out your small world. All right.
I don't care if I get beat up on this, but let's be honest. We see numerous time and time again. If you look at many Black cities, predominantly Black, that have Black politicians, they get plagued by corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the city of Newburgh. The city of Newburgh, they've been trying to. The town of Newburgh is a very affluent community, but the city of Newburgh is sometimes, I would say, worse than the South Bronx. And they've been, and I say they, businesses, developers, real estate moguls have been trying to change that area for a long time, right? Liberty Avenue, if anyone knows Liberty Avenue, which is like the main street, is getting gentrified, getting some nice little stores, but the surrounding blocks are just really decimated, and it hasn't been able to move. And it's because the politicians, if they're not getting their hand in the cookie jar, or getting some cookies in their crumbs, nothing moves. And so that city is just plagued. And I'm not picking on on black people. It's not a racist thing, but it's the reality that unfortunately what we see in some black communities is what we saw with Eric Adams, is they hire their friends and they put their friends in positions, and that causes corruption. And we see it in Baltimore. We see it in the city of Newburgh. We see it in New York. And just seeing time and time again. It's just, we have to break the cycle.
Yeah, we do. And yes, Ben, I do. Okay. Now, there was a time in my life where I was hanging out in the park a lot, and the people I was hanging out with were the friend I had he was really connected to the gangs in the neighborhood. Okay. And my life could have easily been dragged into that just by being around these people, had my dad not tell me to get my ass in after dark. Okay. So yes, Ben. Okay, so this is the video I was talking about. So let's quickly let me quickly play it. Let's get into her mind as a social justice warrior over here.
Tommy and I were at, independently supporting our 43rd precinct. They have a precinct council breakfast, as an annual breakfast, well attended. And there were many of our community partners that were there. Kwame was representing his organization. I was representing myself and the community board I sit on. And this gentleman, I was sitting at a table, and this gentleman was sitting, and I remind you, I didn't even recognize him today in the studio, because how he's dressed right now is not the person who I literally just walked right by him. And, he tie, very, very formal. So I was a little shocked to hear that he had apprehended the way I saw him. Like, he kind of was so conservative that I didn't expect him to do, like, I wasn't expecting that. Right. And so then I see today, and I'm just like, wow, you can just literally go from one extreme to the other. But that's what we do, right? So we can be chameleons, and you kind of form into whatever environment you're in. And I think the race allows us to look at people for who they are, and you don't want to ever be judged for the worst mistake that you ever made in your life for every day of your life. Like, and that's kind of what reentry is. We don't look at second chances. We don't look at the fact that someone could have just made a mistake. Who knows why the individual was doing what he was doing and shooting at the Bruckner Expressway?
Just made a mistake.
I don't know. We don't even want to get in the middle.
What were you saying, John?
No. Keep going. I thought the video was done.
Middle of the why.
Right.
The reality is that person will go through the system, that person will be sentenced, that person will go through whatever he is given by the court system. And sort of, that's not on my side of the spectrum. I'm concerned about when he is ready to come home. Is there a community willing to receive him? And what options and resources are available for him when he comes home? And the more that we have conversations, that we have these large scale discussions and events to really be a fellowship and support to each other and to create opportunities, the better off we have people coming home, getting jobs and getting on their feet.
I want to bring Mr. Kwame Thompson in.
Yeah. So
you heard her there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're chameleons. We're chameleons. We could transform to whatever we want. Her concern was reentry. Did her husband re-enter society? Looks like her husband re-entered and went right back to the grift and the graft that he was doing and all the scheming he was doing. So the one thing that I think is important that we missed, though, like when we were discussing James Lackard, so he's being accused of trafficking high level amounts of heroin. I don't have access to the documents, but I'm sure if you did, there would be other types of drugs and guns involved in that type of trafficking as well. And I'm sure there's tons of violence that was surrounding all of this that he was just never linked to. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot there. Like, I know I read through that stuff, and some of you might be like, it was just a few things, but it definitely, he deserved jail time, but it doesn't sound so bad. There's a lot of things. Those are the only thing we could get was those publicly accessed affidavits. There was so much work that went into those investigations. I mean, I'd love to get somebody on here from Winston-Salem who was involved in that, or the DEA, to talk about those times. And I think you'd be able to get a bigger picture. But all during that time, his wife is running and he's co-managing a non-for-profit for what? Substance abuse. And they have all of these city contracts in Winston-Salem. And so the whole time, there's allegations of corruption. There's all this stuff. There's all this fodder around, and they still get the city contracts in Winston-Salem. The only until James Lackard makes the deal and gets 10 years, gets sentenced to 10 years in jail, then the city pulls back all their contracts from their substance abuse treatment facility. So, again, multiple houses. The house they live in is gorgeous. You know what I mean? Like, there is just, she was not charged in that, right? She was not charged in it, but she lost her entire business. I mean, you're in substance abuse, you're in reforming people from substance abuse, and you can't tell that your husband's involved in high-level drug trafficking. Then you get involved in the nonprofit for Griff. You move away, you move to New York City. You're like, oh, time to put the show on the road, boys. Mama's got to feed it. Mama's got shoes she got to buy. Mama's got to feed the boys because daddy had to go away. Where does she go? She moves to New York City, baby. The home of the brave and the grift and the graft and the corruption capital of the world, New York City. And what does she do? She gets involved in a non-for-profit for re-entry, right? And she starts doing these re-entry races, right? She does a re-entry race, and I don't know if you have that video up of that re-entry race, Marlon, but that's another good video where she starts these races for people coming out of jail. And again, she failed with the substance abuse because she wasn't helping anyone that was involved in that was having a problem using drugs, right? Because her husband is adding to the problem out there, the drug problem out there, right? He's drug trafficking. So you're not helping anyone. As a matter of fact, your family is directly involved in hurting these people and getting them in there, right? And then now you move to New York City and you get on the grift train with the criminal justice reform and reentry, but your husband gets out and you guys are helping your son do a drive-by. Something's not right here, bro. Something's not right. And, I always love the saying, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was that he proved that no one exists, that he didn't exist. He proved to the world, he convinced the world that he didn't exist, right? That was the greatest trick the devil ever pulled. She looks very involved in all of this stuff to me. There is a nexus between her and him, a very, very strong one. And I don't think the media is doing a good job in looking back at that nexus and because now what we know is she was directly involved in doing a drive-by shooting. We need to know what that drive-by was about.
Back into communities.
And we need to know if James Lackard was the one that put his son up to that drive-by. Because again, it appears to me that this slutty gang or whatever is involved in the same stuff that a young James Lackard was involved in. And guess what? James Lackard is just running his businesses between New York and North Carolina, and he's not doing anything again. But looks like Stringer Bell to me, and Ma Lackard looks like the ringleader of it all. She looks like the glue that holds it all together. She's the public relations. She cleans them up, public relations. She's out there with the political connections. I mean, I'm sorry, man. This whole thing stinks, bro. And honestly, how Mount Vernon is not under a corruption probe, including the mayor, is beyond me. Is beyond me. God only knows what the hell is going on in that department. Because we talk about the New York City Police Department every day, and I'll tell you right now, God only knows what's continuing to occur there. Like and there's some shady shit even around this case, and I'll get into that a little later.
You know what?
Coming from the upper echelon.
Yep. She actually might be the real Stringer Bell, not James Lackard. It might be her. You know what I'm saying, Marlon?
Mm-hmm.
She might be the Stringer Bell.
Well, you know what's interesting about that, John, is that, that Perspective show has a later interview during the scamdemic where it's remote. It's on a video conference, right? It's a video interview, and she talks about how when she moved to New York, she didn't get back into the rehabilitation, basically rehab game. That she strictly stuck to the reentry program and providing services for getting services for prisoners who get out of prison and want to reassimilate into society. But she says in that interview that now she's looking to get back into it. And what's interesting about that is that interview was in 2020, and her husband had gotten out at that time. It was around the same time frame that her husband got out of jail. So I haven't found anything yet, but I would love to know if she was connected to any drug rehab treatment or facilities in either the Bronx or Mount Vernon around that, especially after 2020, because again, that's the same time that the husband got out of jail, got out of prison, and again, the husband clearly went back and forth between New York City and North Carolina. But I'll just play this quickly.
Reentry is formerly incarcerated people coming back into the city and coming back into communities. And so we say people can commit their crime, but when they come back, they should have the opportunity to live a life that's safe, healthy, and inclusive. And we as communities can work with them to do that.
It helps when police invite us out and interact. It helps us and them know who we are and respect each other.
We as police officers understand that when someone's re-entering the community, there might be some biases that need to be mended between the re-entering party, police officers, and
There
the
he is,
community as a
gobbling
whole.
it up. All right, there he is. Ben Gurley, gobbling it all up. That woke progressive bullshit. You know what's interesting about this, John and Marlon? I kind of wonder, I've been thinking about this. Like, how much input, if any, did Jennifer Lackard have into the violence interrupted program for the NYPD? I'm curious because I think based on her relationship with Ben Gurley and the accolades and the praises that she was given for Ben Gurley when he was the CO of the 4-3 precinct, and also Keon Ramsey for PSA 8, how much input did she have with the violence interrupters, if any? And I would say most likely she probably did. You know, I look back at some records, and just to talk about the Iron Pipeline of the I-95. In 1996, there was a huge federal case where drugs and guns, mostly drugs, were being transported by Greyhound bus from New York to, of course, Greensboro, North Carolina. And what's interesting about that also, you know what I find interesting about that is in the 90s, especially 96, is when New York City started to get a decline in crime, right? At the height of Mayor Giuliani and William Bratton at the time he was commissioner. And yet 96, especially 95, Greensboro was out of control. It was a really high crime for that area. So why was her husband, doing dealings in Greensboro when he could be in New York City where things were actually getting safer and better business opportunities? So it's quite interesting looking at that. So again, going back to just looking at the Iron Pipeline and his business dealings and looking at the era of the time in the 90s, but thinking about the violence interrupted program now, I would like to know, as I said before, if she had any input, if any, and if she did, what was that input? And I would say it's highly probable and it's highly likely. She was involved in two separate not-for-profit organizations. One is the reentry, and before that, it was called Ivy something. Ivy Center, right? Well, Ivy Self Center or something like that, where she was helping
Ivy House. That's the
Ivy
one
House, that was
in
it.
Salem, Winston,
Yep,
North
where she
Carolina.
was helping out offenders. And yet that was 2007. Her husband jumped in 2009 into that. Why? What was her motivation? Why did she want to help out offenders? I mean, what was the motivation? Because at this time her husband wasn't incarcerated yet. I'm just curious, what was her motivation behind that? No one could tell us at this point. The mayor of Mount Vernon has told us shit. Her background check is inept. They haven't told us much. There's no transparency also. They're just hoping this thing fizzles away and goes away. So you're absolutely right, John. The feds should be knocking down the doors of Mount Vernon politicians, Mount Vernon leadership at this point right now. And there should be a huge probe, and there needs to be a huge internal investigation, and that needs to be completely turned over, but it needs to be done by an outside entity.
So and then what happens is, right, like we kind of went to the past and now let's go to the future. So now Jen moves to New York City, husband's in prison for a decade, comes home in 2019. Jen's no longer doing drug treatment rehab. She's doing this reentry stuff, which she's obviously not too good at. And her son changes overnight from this sweet little innocent looking kid to looks like a thug. Looks like a gangbanger. His face changed. His expression changed. you see that he really he's a different person. He's a completely different person from those little kids, that little kid you see in those other videos. Like he's a hardened individual. So her son is arrested once in 2023 for a gun, which I wasn't aware of last time I did the show. So he was arrested once for an illegal firearm in 2023 in the Soundview section of the Bronx. And he's arrested 2 other times for having illegal firearms. Both of those times he shot. One he shot by a rival, and another time he shot by the police. And really at that time now, Jennifer Lackard, it's 2020. She's got her little nonprofit. She's the deputy commissioner of Mount Vernon. I mean, huge red flags. This girl is in charge of wellness, the wellness precinct, and is a high-ranking member of the Mount Vernon Police Department. And her son is actively involved in gangbanging and violence and gun trafficking. Where was Daddy? He was out. He was out in 2019. 2019, he comes out. 2020, Jen Lackard gets that position. 2023, first time her son's arrested with an illegal firearm. He's shot 2 more times in 2024. She is the commissioner of Mount Vernon. How does this not raise red flags? Like, where's Daddy? Hey, Jen, what's going on in your house? Your son lives with you and he has illegal firearms. Like, what's happening here? No one thought that, hey, maybe Daddy's home. There's some bad stuff going on in that house. Maybe Jen shouldn't be privy to any of this stuff, and I've talked to I talked to a bunch of people and guys I respect and a lot of good investigators as well. And after we did last show, and they're like, I don't really agree with you guys that just because she's in leadership that she necessarily has access to all of these police records. And I was like, I'm going to tell you right now, I totally disagree with you, because she is in charge of the police department. She has access to every single thing that you wouldn't think she does. She has access to not only active criminal investigations, she has access to active internal investigations. When you're that high level, you have access to everything. I don't want to hear all this bullshit it's parsed out, because what did we know under the Adams thing? They all were able to know everything that was going on, every allegation that came in against them with the Internal Affairs Bureau, every allegation that came in against them with the Equal Opportunity Office. And supposedly all of those things were, oh yeah, they were all secret, and we won't know anything. And it was all bullshit, because they knew everything that was happening. And not only did they know it, they were dictating it. So look, I'm not alleging that Jen Lackard used that computer and used her own authority to go through that stuff. But don't tell me she didn't have people working for underneath her, that she got put in place there, that are probably now detectives, unearned, because of diversity, equity, inclusion. And I don't care if they're black, white, Spanish, Chinese, Asian. Doesn't matter to me. They didn't earn it. They got put there because it was politically convenient and because they could be trusted and have those people run stuff and give that information to her child. I don't know that it happened. There's no allegation that it happened, but the chances that that was what was occurring is very, very high. In my opinion, I would say it's like 99.9% that that's exactly what was occurring during all of this gang violence. And here's my other problem with this. The police department, these 2 cucks, knew exactly what was happening there. And who were they endangering? They were endangering Bronx residents, New York City residents, and their own guys that they claim to love so much. So let's take a look at one of those shootings. Let's take a look at one of them.
Let's go. Bounce out.
They love it so much. Let's not say anything, because Jen, we're gonna go out to dinner with her later, and Adams is friends with her, and she's friends with Darcel Clark, and she's friends with everybody. Let's let's play politics, because Ben wants to get promoted. Everybody wants to get promoted. Kaz wants to be the PC. I want to go work with Trump eventually.
All right, ready? Good evening. This is the second time in 3 days our officers had to confront individuals on the street with a deadly weapon, a gun, and have to protect themselves and the community. In this case, the perpetrator was arrested and indicted from a gun arrest in September of 2024, and he's walking around the streets of the Bronx today. Everything I'm about to tell you is depicted on body-worn camera.
Mind you, the son is Chase Lackard, baby Lackard.
And external video. At approximately 3:10 this afternoon, members of the 43 Precinct Neighborhood Safety Team in uniform responded to a 911 call of a large dispute with a firearm. When they respond to the rear of 755 White Plains Road, the video shows us two of the perpetrators coming through a gate as our police officers pull up in a car. At this time, the perpetrator pulls a weapon, a 9mm, loaded, takes a shooting stance at our officers, which they respond and discharge their firearms, striking the perpetrator twice in the leg. Our officers quickly handcuff the perpetrator, render aid, and he's removed to a local hospital along with our officers. Like I said, this is the second time in 3 days we have to confront people on the street with a history of firearms arrest and make split-second decisions to defend ourselves and protect their community. With that being said, I'll open it up for any questions you.
Before we get to the questions, I just got to say right here, right? Like, you're a leader in the New York City Police Department. A kid pulls out a gun on your cops and they shoot him. That kid is the commissioner, a deputy police commissioner's son, who was arrested 2 previous times for illegal firearms, and both of those cases are still open in the Bronx, and now this is his 3rd arrest. You don't make mention of that right to the public? Because me, I'm telling you right now, I would have said it. And the perpetrator, this is his 3rd arrest for being open with a firearm, and he is the son. And then right after that press conference, I would walk to the phone, call not only my internal affairs, but I would call the internal affairs for Mount Vernon. What the fuck is going on over there? What is going on over there? What is going on with your son? What is happening here?
Yeah, John is spot on. Me, I would have. Keep in mind, the NYPD is much larger than Mount Vernon, and they're a partner agency with us, you know. And being the largest police department, certainly in the East Coast, we can exert a lot of, a lot of our will on others. And in this case, if I'm the PC, I'm picking up the phone, and I'm calling mom, and we're either going to have a talk about, what she's doing to prevent her son from potentially shooting at a cop again, let alone shooting at other perps or himself getting killed, And if we're not, then I'm going to raise concerns, certainly in the media, about the fact that you're a deputy commissioner of a police department and your son is gangbanging and your son is trying to kill cops. Okay. But do you think, the question I'm asking you, audience, and you chat, is, do we think that people like Chell, Kaz, Ben Gurley, Caban, who was at the time the PC there, I believe, still, did they do all they could do to prevent this situation from happening again? Did they do all they can to, for the betterment of the cops in the 4-3 who had the firearm pointed at them? Okay. Don't we owe those cops something? Don't we owe them, doing the best we can to prevent this incident from happening again and to prevent that kid from getting even worse?
I definitely want to go, but John, I'll give you an opportunity to go to our sponsor before I want to get cut off.
I don't cut you off, bro. Go. We got a couple of minutes. Go.
Okay. No, I think it's quite interesting, right? Because what does John Shell do here? Normally when a perpetrator is identified, we'll give out the name to the public and say their perpetrator is identified as Chase Lackard, but we don't hear that here. He keeps referring to the perpetrator without identifying and giving his name. I think that is completely intentional that he doesn't give the name. What I'd also like to know is, did the 4-3 precinct cops, were they informed that Chase Lackard is the son of the deputy commissioner at Mount Vernon, this is the motherfucker that's trying to shoot you. Let's forget about calling up and being all nice. No, if I was John Shell or Benjamin Gurley, I'd call her and go, what the fuck is going on in your home? Your son is trying to kill my cops. And the fact that he's arrested 3 times and he has indictments and there's nothing has actually met to fruition within the court system. Darcel Clark, what's going on there? Let's put 2 and 2 together and say, wait a minute. Jennifer Lackard has a huge connection to our police department upper management, huge connection to politicians, Darcel Clark, and her son is involved in 3 separate shootings, shooting at our cops, pointing a firearm at our cops. We need to fix this right now. You're absolutely right, John. An internal investigation. Let's call Department of Justice. Let's call DOI. Let's have our internal affairs on it. Let's have their internal affairs. Let's call the feds. Let's call everyone so this doesn't happen again. But instead, they're all smiling because I'm sure after that, Benjamin Gurley heard, hey, how you doing? What's going on? I highly doubt that they actually probed her and actually said, what the fuck is going on in your home? Let's have a real conversation about this. Absolutely ridiculous.
You're muted, John.
Yeah, I want to listen to those questions, but from the press conference, because I'm curious if the press was on this or not back then. I don't remember. I remember that press conference, but I don't remember how much of it came out and when. So we'll play a little bit of that. But before we do that, it's time for a message from our partners over at Kalshi. Every single day, we make predictions about pop culture, the economy, and the biggest stories making headlines. Kalshi is America's #1 predictions market platform. It lets you trade those predictions in a live market. This is a good one. I like this one. And this is something I think me and you talked about this before, Marlon. Will Tesla and SpaceX merge? Right now, Tesla and SpaceX merging before May 1st, 2027 is currently trading at 42%, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $201. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code Finest to get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade $25. Ooh, excuse me. Actually, this actually changed. I don't know why this didn't change here, but you for a limited time, you could use the Kalshi app or code, or you could take your phone and scan that QR code, and you'll get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Price, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. And so, yeah, like I said, you could use the new QR code that's down at the bottom, and you could get that. You could take advantage of that $10. I don't know that it's smart to do, but I don't know. I own both stocks. I own both Tesla and I own a little bit of SpaceX. I was a little cautious with the way it was trading. So I didn't buy it at the height initially upon opening. So I only bought a little bit once it came down. But what do you guys think about that? Do you think they will merge?
Yeah, I do. First of all, Tesla isn't a car company. Okay. And I'll tell you that for a fact because I worked for Tesla after the job got rid of me. I worked for them for one holiday season. Right. And I also owned a Tesla back in the day. Yeah. And I can tell you for a fact that the quality of their vehicles is not up to par. I mean, the best part of a Tesla is the fact that being an EV, the battery is low to the ground, and which impacts handling of the vehicle. It felt like driving a go-kart actually, and the brains of the car is very smart too with the autopilot. Autopilot is fantastic. I can't tell you how many times I've actually fallen asleep coming back from work. I would be driving, fall asleep, and the car would be autopilot on the highway driving me home still. But the problem with them is the interior of the vehicles aren't as nice as the other manufacturers, as the traditional car manufacturers. And I personally don't think Tesla cares about cars because even from the 6 years that I had my car and from the more than 10 years that they've been building cars now, they haven't improved the interior build of the cars. Okay. The cars have gotten smarter. They look better on the outside, but the interior is still subpar considering how much you're spending for it. So I don't really think they care about cars. I think they care about robots. I think the car was just a way to get the data needed for a robot to be able to maneuver in the free world, in the outside world. And I think they're going to eventually transition into licensing out their technology and just making robots, in which case might as well just merge with SpaceX, and SpaceX want to use robots to build on the moon or Mars or wherever.
I think it'll definitely merge. And the reason why, I think, first of all, if they merge, it brings the valuation up, right? And so I'm a huge fan of Shark Tank, and I never really understand valuations until I started watching Shark Tank. And when they explain valuations, and you really understand how a company actually gets built, especially with their valuations and where they actually start to understand their revenue. So I think it brings up the valuations, and I do think that it taps into that market, because I think ultimately everything is going to AI and robotics. So I think that allows for Tesla and obviously SpaceX is already there, but allows Tesla and SpaceX to take over that market. And ultimately, eventually, if they do merge in that sense, they could become monopolized. I mean, everything else is going to be AI and robotics, but it gives them a sense of monopoly, right? Because I think that and SpaceX is just a huge compound as it is already. So I think it brings up the valuation, and I think it allows them to take over that market. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Quick story for you guys, right? Told you I sold cars there, right? I was at the Nesmith, Nescont Road, I think it is, out in is that still? I think that's Suffolk by there. Yeah, in Smithtown, right? I was there in Smithtown. So anyway, we sold Model Y one day, and now my job was the final part where you come in and you sign all the documents, and I walk you through the car, walk you through the how to operate the vehicle, right? And so I'm not really checking the interior of the car, or raising the hood and checking, going in underneath the engine and making sure everything is together. That's not my job, and I don't have time for that because we have multiple customers coming in. So I helped finish out the sale of the vehicle. I had the guy sign all the documents and all this. He takes the vehicle home. Next day he comes back and he's like, he lifts up the hood, and the hood is missing, like the radiator is exposed and everything, and there's a massive dent in the radiator. And then he shows me inside of the car that there's a handle missing for the seats. I was like, I felt so embarrassed,
Yeah.
And keep in mind, it was supposed to go through multiple layers of inspection from the factory through when it gets into the dealership where it's washed and it's ready for people to pick up. I was so embarrassed, But again, Tesla has problems there. And if you buy a car from Tesla, just make sure you inspect it before you sign it out on those documents.
I think, well, that's a great point. I think kind of like when you buy a Tesla, are you really buying a car, or are you buying more like data and experience and AI experience? Because I think, like, when you look at like Rivian, right? Rivian, which is another electrical car, I think that's more of them selling a car. Because you look at the Tesla parts, or even like the Cybertruck, which is the big thing, the actual trunk itself, it's kind of like made crappy. So I agree. I think they're selling more data. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, I hope they license out that stuff to traditional car manufacturers, because I think the traditional car manufacturers, their build quality is far superior. I love the brains of the Tesla, but the body, the build is just not there for me. So
all right. Let's get back to the Ma Lackard family.
Yeah.
So
all right,
John will take that bet.
All right, jump on it. I've been doing well. So,
did you make money yet?
I made a lot of money. Yeah,
oh,
I've
nice.
got a lot of money from
All right.
So here are the questions. Now, the media knows who this kid is, right? This is now his third arrest, and he's the son of Mount Vernon's deputy police commissioner. So let's hear what the media asks.
I have. I'm going to start right here with Josh Iger, ABC. Chief, two questions. One about the specific case, and then one just bigger picture. Did the suspect?
I can't hear what they're saying, but he'll repeat it.
No, he did not. The perpetrators were coming through a gate that opens when a car pulls out. It's a mechanical gate. A civilian car is pulling out, and our police car is right behind that car. from approximately 20 feet, when the perpetrator with the gun sees our cops or sees our car, he takes his gun out and takes his shooting stance right at us. Like I said, we discharged our firearm, striking him twice in the leg. But Josh, this is the second time this week, like I mentioned, we have someone walking around the community of the Bronx in the Soundview section with a loaded semi-automatic weapon who was arrested 3 months ago in the streets of Manhattan and indicted. This probably shouldn't have happened.
How can you speak to the frustration that cops?
Not just someone. That someone is the son of someone pretty high up.
Definitely not just someone.
Our criminal justice system needs to be fixed. We saw it this week with the 3 people stabbed by someone who shot around the street. We saw it Tuesday in Queens, where our cops had to confront a career criminal on lifetime parole who just committed 2 robberies that night, fired at people, citizen gets involved, and shoots our officer in the leg. We are very frustrated. We have to fix this.
We're going to move on to Maryland Buckley, 10 Wins.
Chief, does this suspect have a lengthy criminal history aside from that one arrest you mentioned?
He has the one arrest for the gun I spoke about.
Any more questions? We'll move on to Duarte from Fox 5.
So the gun was recovered. Was it loaded?
The gun's recovered, loaded, and also is a knife on the scene. So there was 2 perpetrators. One had a gun. We don't know at the knife, but both are recovered.
And you arrested one person. What about the second person?
Second person we're still looking for as we speak.
So
Not one thing about her being the deputy commissioner. Nothing yet.
No, it's just someone. Not
Recognize the person with the
And they all know. They all know her.
shooting stance
Every
at our
single one of them.
Yeah. Yep. That. You know what? Ben Gurley should have called James Lackard to take care of that incident when he had that fighting over his daughter. He should have called James Lackard, or should have called Jennifer Lackard. They would have taken care of it for him.
Maybe the CEO of the 4-3 didn't know her, but I still
Clarity.
doubt
So
that.
it's a 911
Moya
large
has no
dispute
idea.
with a gun at 755 White Plains Road. 4-3 precinct. Neighborhood.
Does he know that he's a
uniform
captain?
responded to our
No, he
call.
has no idea. He
They
was
were
my
in
CO.
the location.
He was my
Real
CO of
location,
PSA 7 at the end. He
sliding
pretended he
gate,
didn't know me
trying to
because
leave
my
the cars.
CCOBs.
The perpetrators come in
Yeah.
the gate, our officers coming right at them. When he sees the car, the perpetrator sees the car, he takes his shooting stance, takes his gun out of his waist, takes his shooting stance, and our officers defend themselves.
We're going to go to Kerry Burke.
Yeah, what about the ignition dispute? How many were involved? What was that about?
This came over as a large dispute. Our detective squad.
So that's it. 5 minutes. It never comes up in this press conference. The media only cares about that incident. They never do any research into who that kid is. And if they did, they were too scared to ask the question, or they were told not to ask the question. And I'll go with the latter. Because again, I know a lot of investigative journalists, and they are not stupid. A lot of them are much more highly qualified than a lot of first-grade detectives we have running around New York City Police Department right now. And I'm sure the same is true for the Mount Vernon Police Department. Like there is no way that was and it plays in. It plays in now because it's like, do you trust New York City to follow through with this prosecution? I don't. How about this one? How about this one? I heard the 4-4 detective squad's on the shit list with Jessica Tisch. Why is the 4-4 detective squad on the shit list with the whole upper echelon of the NYPD? Supposedly, now I don't know this to be true, but there's a strong rumors flying around the department right now. They're saying that obviously this was a high-profile arrest. Jennifer Lackard was going to do the perp walk. They called over to DCPI and said, you know, what are we going to do for the walkout? Like what time do you want us to do it? What time are we doing it? DCPI never responded. They leave now. They go out the back door. They don't want her going out the front door. They're instructed by the upper echelon of the PD. You will not go out the front door with her. You will go out the back door with her. They go out the back door. Media's waiting in the back door for her. They think that somebody in the squad tipped them off. Not just that there's reporters actually doing their job and saying, wow, this is crazy. Let's get over the 4-4 and wait. And, you know, there's nothing going on in the front. Okay, wait by the back door too. So they think, so now the 4-4 squad's on the shit list. Why are they on the shit list? Why? What do we got to cover up? What are you hiding from the media? What's the spin here? What's the cover up? What did they have to gain by not mentioning that this is this kid's 3rd arrest and his mother is a deputy commissioner? I'll tell you what they had to gain. They had to gain that Darcel Clark doesn't get put on the hot seat for why this kid's out on walking around on his 3rd gun arrest. Darcel Clark doesn't get put on the hot seat. His mother doesn't get put on the hot seat. And who has everything to lose? The residents in New York City and the rank and file of the NYPD. You should be a fucking ashamed of yourselves. Shell and Kaz and Gurley should be fucking ashamed of yourselves. Disgraceful. Cowards. Oh, in case I didn't say it, I just want to say. So if Winston, if you're listening, let me say, pussies, cowards, ballless, self-neutered, cowardly, no moral integrity, liars, don't give a shit. If anyone on the streets in New York City dies that day, don't care about the black community that they pretend to care about. Don't care about anybody. They care about me and myself and I. That is it.
Hey, you can throw Winston in that one too, because he called us pussies. No, they're pussies, and you too, because you know what, Winston, you put out all these videos. I want to know what you think about this. If you have nothing to say about this, you're in the same circle.
I don't know, but if you could listen to him to give his thoughts about this, I'll give you credit, bro, because I can't listen. I didn't even get that far with his video. I was like, I can't listen. This is.
But you know what?
Where
John,
were you guys? It's like, I'll tell you where we were. We were on the podcast before I had a pension.
That's right.
I started the thing before I even had a pension. How about that? I was feeding myself through driving people around, being a chauffeur. Like, yeah. And like that's where I was. Where was Marlon? He was terminated with no pension. You're speaking out while you're making a 15 or whatever the hell, God only knows how much you're making. Probably got a 3/4 application in there. Like, you're not brave, bro. You're not brave. You know, like I said, there's two things that are happening. There's two things that are happening with all these new podcasters that are coming out. They're either running cover for themselves or they're doing hit jobs and being mouthpieces for other people. You know, you can clearly see it. They're so transparent, but they black out names on things that they put out, you know, when that name just happens to be the old partner of their attorney. You know, real transparent people. So, yeah, Winston could call us whatever he wants because, like I said, Winston looks like he's a little nervous.
But you know what? Constantly. You know what's funny about that? Because Winston, Grand Rising, he'd probably say, you guys don't understand because you weren't an executive. When you're an executive, you got to play these games, right? That's what I heard from him. I heard from Rodney Harrison when he spoke. Oh, I wasn't the chief of the department at the time. It's all because someone told them not to do it. John Shell, I'm sure, would justify it, and there's no doubt about it. I would put my money on it. We don't know. But I would put my money that they were told not to mention it. It was intentional that they kept saying the perpetrator, didn't identify the perpetrator. Every 49, every cop, active and retired, knows what a 49 is. And every police enthusiast should know 49 is just a form that gives all the pertinent information. And what's the first thing that you always put on one of those forms is the perpetrator is identified as blah, blah, blah. That would be the most pertinent information. We always tell the public, especially a known felon, their information and their age. That was intentional. It was intentional.
Third time they ripped a gun off this kid, and this time he takes aim at them. What are the chances this kid kills a cop? So highly likely, and they're not doing anything.
But they don't care. It's okay. You know what? It's okay because I'm sure now that we're saying this, there's gonna be cops who say, "Oh, but they're nice guys." Benjamin Gurley's got a nice smile. Moya, he's nice. He's a nice guy. Stanley's not saying a word. Everyone's okay with it. Not one person mentioned that this was the son of Jennifer Lackard, who's in charge of Mount Vernon. That, hey, we got a problem over here. We got a problem. I want to find out what's going on in the DA's office. Why was he not charged? You know what? I got a direct line to Jennifer Lackard. Why do they say we got a direct line to Jennifer Lackard? We'll find out if she can help us out here.
Yeah. You think anybody called down to the DA's office? Why is this kid walking around? Nah, nobody did that.
What do you say about that?
Anybody called internal affairs at Mount Vernon? Nah, nobody did that, right? Nobody did any of that. They're all cowards. Look at this. This is the epitome of the word pussy. Look, John Midget Macari, right? Hiding behind a fake name, and he says, "You guys can say all you want from behind the screen, big guy." Dude, I'm a midget, so what are you afraid to use your name for and say what you got to say, you coward? Another pussy. Like, exactly. Right? I'm a midget. What are you scared about? What are you scared? You know, like, here's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, you guys on podcasts, you act tough, blah, 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 blah. You're behind the screen. Dude, we're doing it with our real names. You guys are cowards. You won't say anything. You had the keys to the kingdom. You were put in the position to affect change. And the only thing you did was rob and steal for your own personal gain. That's it. That's it. It's like, it's a fucking joke, dude. It's a joke. And by the way, I was calling for pension reform for a long time. And now, and somebody said that I should be in jail for it, that I said the pension system should be audited. And now it seems like they're calling for it as well, but lining out some names that they wanted against. And I just want to say one thing. I'm not done with that. Like, that shit, you're going to fucking answer for that. You're going to answer how you were a commissioner of corrections and how you were the commissioner of DCAS and how somehow you had a director position with the NYPD, even though you hadn't worked in the NYPD in 10 years, and you were funneling all that money to the police pension fund, and now you have a ginormous pension that you never put the money into and you don't deserve. Yeah, and it goes for all of you. I don't care if you were on that payroll for 3 months, if you were on it for 3 years, or if it decreases your pension by 80%. Doesn't matter to me because you didn't earn that pension. So, you want to say that I'm a coward? Yeah, okay. I'm not. I walk with my head held up high everywhere I go, peoples. Now, unlike you cowards that are on here with your fake names.
Listen, I want to know. I want to know exactly that from Winston Faison. Yes, I'm going to say it again. Live at the Finest Unfiltered today, Friday Roundtable. Yeah, they're pussies. Not one of them actually spoke the truth about what was going on with Chase Lackard. In 3 incidents, one of the cops in the 4-3 precinct could have been shot and killed, and yet there was no rebuttal. They didn't mention his information. They didn't mention the perpetrator. They were intentionally deflecting those type of questions that could refer to his information, his background. It was completely intentional. Very careful with the media. It was very calculated. There's no doubt about it. So what's it phase on when you come out with your next video? What are you going to say about it? Oh, but we can't say anything, right? Poor Chase Lackard was from a broken home, and Jennifer Lackard was just trying to do the best that she could, right? Trying to support her family. We can't say this because we're white and it's racist, right? Bullshit. You're damn right, John. We say this with our names right here. They tried to decertify us, and we didn't care. They tried to take our pensions, and we still kept going. You can try to take it today, and we won't stop. So Winston Faison, who's the pussy now?
Yeah. I'd like to ask Winston, where was the we? Where was the we with this young man? Okay, Gurley knew this family. Okay, did he do the best that he can to try and help this young man? Okay. Again, he knew her very well. Did he do the best he can do? Because if you're remaining silent on that press conference, if the job refuses to call her out, you're not doing that young man a favor here, And you can see that he got bolder and bolder in what he was doing, because the final act again was to commit a shooting, essentially a drive-by, really, at the courthouse, at the Bronx courthouse. And that's pretty damn brazen, considering that area is full of cops, correction, court officers, even corrections, and people who all have firearms themselves. And you're going to commit a drive-by right there. That's pretty, and there's a ton of cameras. That's pretty damn bold to me. But I'm sorry.
No, but that's why all these woke progressive politics are so soft, because the reality is Benjamin Gurley shouldn't be smiling and taking pictures with her saying, what can we do for your son? You're a mother. Take care of your family. Fix your family, because it's too late if we have to interact with him. You know what they would say in Florida? He's going to end up facing bullets. You know what? I'm sorry that young man made poor choices, but I care about the cops. I don't want the cops to have to get into a situation where they have to justify a shooting or, God forbid, get shot. So you know what, Jennifer Lackard? Fix your home, because if not, we have to fix your son. And unfortunately, it's too late. Yeah. Let's have those real conversations that, what can we do? Oh, he needs a second chance. And she said, when people commit a crime, they shouldn't be judged by the worst incident in their life. Well, when should we judge them? That's the whole point of someone going to court. It's because we judge them and we decide how they should face a sentence and what should happen, what was better for society. So this idea that everybody gets another chance, yes, I believe in second chances, but I also believe that we're honest and transparent.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of people in certain communities that feel that you should be silent about the problems. And they don't realize when you're being silent about the problems in the community, you're not helping the community, and you're not helping society, and you're not helping this country. Because the only way we're going to get past these problems is if we call it out in the open and fix them. Okay. And again, she should have been called out for this. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care what people are saying, that it's her son and that, there's only so much she could do. I don't care. Because the fact is that this kid pointed a firearm at cops. Okay. And he could have easily himself been killed there. Okay. So this is the actual video of the incident. Don't worry, John. I put squares on the firearm so that our overlords at
we're not
YouTube
allowed
don't
to. We're a
question it.
police show, but we're not allowed to look at body camera. Just every other police show can.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah.
Or else we get accused that we're streaming firearms live. You know.
Yeah. So let me zoom forward a little bit. So the one in the white hoodie is Chase himself.
Look at this. Right at them. Right at them.
Yeah.
Someone. I love how John Shell said someone. It's not a someone. It's someone we know. It's a son of Jennifer Lackard. Someone we know that was arrested 3 times. He was just indicted. He's on the streets of Manhattan. He's on the streets in the Bronx. Why did you ask the question, John Shell? Why? It wasn't just someone. It was someone that had some serious connections. That should have raised red flags. John, you talked, you laughed on Wednesday. Oh, they, were there signs? Oh, man. There's a lot of signs that were intentionally buried.
Intentionally buried in the media. Intentionally buried in the media. Look at this. This is unbelievable, man. Great work by these 2 cops, by the way. Great work. Only thing, you guys, send the mask next time. Don't hit the legs.
I know the sergeant, by the way. Outstanding. I know him very good. He was a great cop. Good job, brother.
Send the mask next time. Do the world a favor, right?
Panero was a great cop, man. Good job, dude. Nice job.
Yeah. I talk many times about how if you have a good boss that protects you, you go to the trenches for him because you don't. First of all, you want to protect him because it maybe being a little bit selfish. You don't want him to go. Okay. But when you have a good boss, you're ready to go to the trenches for him because he's ready to go to trenches for you. So as a boss, your job is to protect these guys and to look out for them, right? And as an executive of the NYPD, your job is to protect the institution and protect all the cops there and to look out for all the cops. So how is it that you as chiefs know more about this incident and could have done more, could have called it out, could have, you should be going to the mat to do all you can to make sure this kid doesn't get, doesn't continue it and didn't get further emboldened, which he eventually did. But did they do that? So when John Chell goes on all these Fox News programs and tells you how he loves cops and how talks, he puts on the phony conservative persona that he now has. Okay, you got to ask him that. Did you have this persona back then? Did you do all you can for cops? When you get up on that podium and you say this has to stop about the justice system, yeah, we all agree on that. But what is it that you can do as an executive in the NYPD to further that? Okay, you didn't do your part then. Okay.
Do you think they ever had the conversation with Jennifer Lackard? Hey, Jennifer, what is going on with your son? We got your son, listed as a slutty gang member in the gang database. Like, Jennifer, what's going on in your home? Why is your son shooting at my cops? What the hell are you doing? Why are you in charge of Mount Vernon if you can't fix it? You got your son shooting at cops. We're not talking about a petty theft. We're not talking about stealing a can of shaving cream at CVS or Walgreens. We're talking about being involved in a shooting. We're talking about a violent perpetrator. And for John Shell to say someone and act as if it's just another perpetrator that they don't know is completely intentional. So, John Shell, I know you watch this. You're a bum. How could you do that? Everyone standing at the dais, full of shit, pretending like they have no idea who it is. It's just a run-in-the-mill, another perpetrator who happens to be the son of a very high public figure who has indictments but has no convictions. Are we kidding? No one spoke up about it. Yeah, Winston, no one spoke up about it, man. You talk about pussies and cowards. Not one active chief said, wait a minute. This is the son of a public safety commissioner. We need to probe and find out what's going on here. Not one person spoke up about it. Oh, but you can't, right? You're executive. You got to fall in line, right? Where was John and I and Marlon supposed to speak up about that? Well, we did speak up. We spoke up with action, and well, at least for me, I made the decision to retire so that I could speak out. Marlon was terminated, and John was forced under duress to leave the job. So we spoke out immediately right away, fighting the atrocities. Where were you, Winston? Grand Rising. You don't care. You just care about yourself. And now you're worried about these lawsuits, and you're out there ducking. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. And FYI, I was still on the job when I went on Fox. So I was still on the job, and I said that their whole process for religious accommodation was discriminatory and it was demeaning. You know, and you know, so I didn't see you out there, Winston. I only seen you coming out in defense of yourself. That's it. I didn't see you coming out in defense of anything else. So, but whatever, screw him. I don't even want to talk about that loser anymore. So, but yeah, none of them would confront her, dude. None of them would confront her. They are cowards. The police department is ran like across this country. It's traditionally leftist white women who've also empowered leftist black women. You know, none of these men are going to say anything about anything. Would they confront her? No. They would, they would send known criminals to try to kill us and threaten our kids. They would try to decertify us and take our pensions. They would do all the things that they actually did, but they would never confront her and say, what the hell's going on here? This is the third time with your son. Like, what is happening here? And then you think any of them went to Darcel Clark and said, what's happening here? This kid's walking around the street. None of them did that. None of them did that. They're afraid of her. She's the boss. She's my Lackard. They ain't going to say nothing to her. You know, this is what comes out. So she's arrested at this point. I think, but when this article, when this news hit came, the husband was still on the lam. He probably had to tie up some loose ends before turning himself in with his wife and his husband there. But I personally think if you look back and you look at the history of all this, I think she's dead sentiment. I personally think, to me, she looks like the ringleader in all this. She doesn't look like the innocent babe in the woods, the mom just keeping her family together. She looks like she's a lot more involved in everything that happened in the past in Winston-Salem to everything that's occurring now. Telling your son, you can't just stand out there and do it right in front when he's about to do a drive-by and then switching cars. That shows me the intent, the planning, and that shows me that you knew a lot more what was happening in your household and with your husband than anybody wanted to pretend that you didn't. And I guarantee you rip apart that Mount Vernon Police Department, there are going to be stories after stories of blatant corruption that endangered the residents of Mount Vernon and New York City and every cop that works in any of these areas all across New York. And probably down in North Carolina too, and on 995 as they were going back and forth and up and down. And it appears to me she is Ma Barker. That's what it appears to me. So this was a news report that came out. But like I said, I think the husband was still on the lam at this point. He returned himself in yesterday morning around 8 o'clock to the fourth wall.
49-year-old Jennifer Lackard, a now former deputy commissioner of public safety for Mount Vernon Police, entering a Bronx criminal courtroom, accused of participating in a wild drive-by shooting outside of the very same courthouse. Prosecutors detailing the allegations during the Tuesday afternoon arraignment, telling the court that the June 29th shooting is all captured on surveillance video. Lackard, her husband James, and son Chase are seen leaving their Soundview apartment that morning. Her 20-year-old son is an alleged gang member and had a court appearance for a gun charge that day. But when he arrived, prosecutors say he opened fire outside at rival gang members, accusing Lackard of getting behind the wheel and helping him flee the scene.
Prior to entering to the courthouse, she's in front of this courthouse for about a good approximately 5 minutes.
The city of Mount Vernon issuing a statement saying, effective immediately, the city of Mount Vernon has terminated Jennifer Lackard's employment. The allegations are unrelated to her duties and do not.
This was her first statement, which was garbage. She had it done. What we read this morning was the second.
Appointed deputy commissioner of wellness for the city in 2020 during the George Floyd protest, and has been lauded for her advocacy work with reentry programs, serving 2 terms on Community Board 9 in the Bronx. Again this afternoon, Jennifer Lackard pleading not guilty to this indictment. Her attorney did not speak after court, but in court says that the picture painted by prosecutors is completely different than her life. In her career, bail was set at $75,000, and she'll be back in court in September. Reporting live in the Melrose section of the Bronx, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Wild, bro.
Yeah, yeah, it is absolutely wild. By the way, something I noticed, you know, here he's referred to as Jay Lackard. Okay, Jay Lackard. His full name is James O'Brien Lackard, right? There's a joke in there, but I'm gonna leave that alone, Pat Donahue. But
names that start with O.
Well, I'm not gonna touch that right now. But anyway, here's the thing, right? Back when she was in North Carolina, she was known as Jenna Lackard, okay? And up here, she's known as Jennifer Lackard. Yeah. You know, when he was collared, he was James Lackard, and now he's calling himself Jay Lackard. So it's very interesting. I need more on it, but I'm noticing that pattern. Yeah. Anyway, let me show you that. Let me get this down here. This is the video I was telling you. This was during COVID. This was May of 2020. Listen to what she says, right? How she talks about what she did when she came to New York and where she's going, which initiatives she's looking to get into. Keep in mind now that according to the Bureau of Prisons, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, Lackard was out as of February 2020. So this is May 2020.
So keeping you pretty busy as we get ready to move towards the summer and through the fall. What do you have on tap?
So I'm working on a few things. Before this, many people know, some may not, but my experience comes from behavioral health care, and so I ran a treatment facility that did mental health and substance abuse for people who were justice involved. And then in that area, I also helped start a mental health court. So I understood what it was that people are cycling through the system. Law enforcement needs to be trained on how to engage with people that are decompensating, and instead of putting them in a correctional facility or a lockup, actually taking them and putting them in the right care. And, whether it's a facility for them to, kind of get themselves together or to relax. Before, it could be that charges are brought up at a later time, but if someone is decompensating, the last place they need to be is in a jail setting. And so when I moved to New York, I actually did not do anything in that area. I just kind of was like, oh, let me get into reentry and not really be on the direct service side. But over the last year, I've been moving towards doing more work around trauma, people who are impacted by incarceration before, during, and after. And also looking at resources and how to tie the healthcare system in with the public health system. So over the next couple of months, you'll be seeing me do a lot of work in that space and partnering up with people to help me promote that agenda.
Yeah. And so are you optimistic with the way that things are going right now, pre-COVID-19? I mean, I know you had your voice out there for a lot.
Yeah. The reason why I wanted to play that was because keep in mind, again, that James got out in 2020, right? So I'm wondering if he's been talking into our ear again about going back to business, running that pipeline again back to North Carolina, from Veracruz to all the way through Arizona, New Mexico, and all that, and to North Carolina, and then back up to New York.
Let's also talk about fair and impartial. So New York does have a law that allows a change of venue done by the appellate court. So I think it definitely, when we talk about her being tried the Bronx court, I think there should be a change of venue. And the law does allow for that. If there's reason to believe that it's unrealistic that there would be a fair and impartial trial, and I think it's unrealistic here because of her political connections, her relationship. And we're not just talking about her not-for-profit organizations, but she was also on the Bronx Community Board. When you're on the Bronx Community Board, you have a lot of connections and personal interactions with Darcel Clark and with politicians. Now, I'm not saying that Darcel Clark is corrupt or the Bronx court is corrupt, but I think reason to say to get a fair and impartial trial, I think we should have a change of venue, and I think it should be in another borough, maybe Staten Island or Brooklyn, somewhere else it should be. And And when we talk about Mount Vernon, I say Mount Vernon is the sixth borough because Mount Vernon and it really does overlap with the 4-7 precinct of the Bronx. And even narcotics, Bronx narcotics, their building itself is located in Mount Vernon. It's actually in Mount Vernon. So I think it's I think to have this case tried in the Bronx is just insane. And if the case does get tried in the Bronx, I'm going to make a guess right now. I don't know what John and Marlon, what your guess is. I would say they're going to spin this case and kind of paint her out as a victim in this. And I'm going to foreshadow. And my prediction is if this gets tried in the Bronx, she will do no more than 18 months. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't trust Darcel Clark to handle this case. I'm not saying that she's corrupt. I'm saying that she's a political hack like the rest of them. And I think that they all do favors for each other. And I think what we've seen, the prosecution and the competency level and what she's done on other cases tell me that this case should go nowhere near around Darcel Clark. There's no way in hell that this case should be tried at all. This should go up onto the federal level and should not go back to Mount Vernon. This should be go in front of federal courts that don't have that political oversight there, where judges aren't appointed by mayors. Again, she sat on Bill de Blasio's mayoral committee, right, for criminal justice reform. Who's running New York City now? I mean, everybody in the de Blasio administration. They're all back. I mean, Mondani's a retread at de Blasio with some of whoever didn't get indicted in the Adams regime left, Besides Shell and Kaz, they got rid of them. They sent them over. Oh, yeah, you guys could go be Republicans now. Kaz went from being a left-wing nut to a hardcore MAGA, Make America Great Again. He loves President Trump. It's funny, So, yeah, I just don't think it should be anywhere there. People disagree with me. It's fine. But, I mean, I can't see her getting much jail time for any of this, and I can't see any larger investigation coming out from the Bronx DA into Mount Vernon Police Department, into the rest of this stuff. And that's why I'm saying this needs to be done at a much higher level because, like I said, it appears that whatever was happening in 1998 and 2010 and 2012 is the same shit that is happening today in 2026, except this time we're privy to intel from both the Mount Vernon Police Department as well as the New York City Police Department. This is high-level police corruption here. This is not a one-off, an employee made a mistake. No. There is a lot more to the story. There is a lot more. And I said it on the last show. There's a lot more that's going to come out. And I hope that's true. But I don't know if that's true if this stays in the jurisdiction of the Bronx DA.
Yeah, I'm saying she's gonna get off. She's gonna tell him some sob story about wanting to keep her son out of jail, And I think it's going to work, and nothing's gonna happen to her. And I think she's gonna go back to. She'll be part of the same progressive industrial complex. In particular, she's gonna be on the NGO side. So I foresee her being involved in something similar to the University of Chicago Crime Lab. And this is once again one of their policy, statements, right? And here they are talking about incarceration. Okay. If I lined up her statements, I bet you it would sound not much different from the people tied to this organization. Again, it's a takeover of policing as we know it. And as you can see with people like Lackard, it's not for the better of the community or for the country. Okay. So I can see her eventually working, if not there, some other NGO that looks that operates very similar. Look
Dude, I mean, think about it. She could be a whistleblower, bro. If she just gets the right attorney, she could be a whistleblower victim.
Yeah.
And now work with an NGO. I mean, it would sound familiar, right?
Yeah.
It would
I never heard that before.
We're gonna deep dive into some of those whistleblowers, and like particularly one whistleblower on a later episode. We're just chopping up all our homework right now before we do that. But yeah, the whistleblower now turned NGO grifter with a lot of other grifters. Yeah, I mean, she could easily be the victim here, and that's what they're gonna paint her to be, a decarceral victim, right? She's a victim of society. The system failed her husband. It failed her son. She's fighting to keep them together. I mean, this could be a BET story, you know, of
100%.
heroism.
Yeah.
I do think she'll do a short stint, very short stint, because they have to. They have no choice. I think she'll do a very short stint. Someone here said 10 months. I said 18. I think she'll be sent. I don't think she'll actually do 18 months. I think she'll be sentenced to 18 months. She'll probably be in and out maybe 7 or 8. Something short, I think, because they have to. But Marlon, I agree with you. I think she'll come out and she'll be on the NGO side of things, which means, maybe something with a community program. And with that, if she's on the NGO side of things, I do think that private organizations, that are woke and progressive, will donate money to her and give her grants, and so that she could prosper and she could flourish. She'll be, second chance mom. The mom that got caught up because she had to try to sway her family. So I that's why I agree with you, brother Marlon. I do agree. I don't see her going back into law enforcement, but she'll be on the NGO side of things, and she'll have a connection to law enforcement as a community program. Maybe she'll do her 7-8 months, come back. Zohran Mamdani may still be mayor or on his way to re-election, and Zohran Mamdani will find a position on the private side as an NGO with a community program. I could foresee something like that. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Keep in mind now, she was, as I've mentioned numerous times, she was also on the community board. And part of being on a community board supposedly involves an interview with the borough president, right? So you got to go through some sort of approval of the borough president. I don't know to what degree that happens, but Ruben Diaz was the borough president back then, right? And as we said also before, she knows a lot of people involved in New York politics. She knows AOC. There's a I think it was an award ceremony or something with AOC on the flyer, and her name comes up in there. So she knows a lot of other politicians, and the mayor of Mount Vernon was in her sorority. So she's very politically connected, and she was in De Blasio's one of his subcommittees. So she's connected up there. So I don't trust the Bronx to prosecute this case, and I don't trust New York State to even do it too, because it's not that farther a distance from Darcel Clark to Tish James, and all the buffoons up there too. So again, it's, quote me on this, she's gonna end up working with either similar group to this, if not this group, or Tanya Meisenholders or the BS herself. Okay, so you guys are gonna be we know you guys are gonna be looking at her, Corey. So somebody wants to make a phone call right now and tell her to submit a resume. Get the application process going. Tell Bratton or Abbasi to give her a phone call now and tell her to start working on her resume.
Well, what's interesting about this? So, have you guys thought about why get involved in a shooting near the Bronx Criminal Courthouse and be the getaway driver at that location? Have you had any speculation? Because I have, and I thought to myself, why, if she's going to be involved as a getaway driver, why at the Bronx Criminal Courthouse early in the day? I'm sure some people saying, "Well, that's a place that is heavily policed, right? You have court officers."
Yeah.
I think it's very fitting. I think it makes sense because I'm sure she probably goes to the Bronx Criminal Court often. She could easily say, as a getaway driver, she gets stopped while I'm either visiting my son, who had a case, or she was there conducting professional. She was conducting professional business. So I think it was intentional. I don't think that they did it near the Bronx Criminal Courthouse for other reasons. That's my speculation. I think that it's very fitting. It makes sense during the day. She could easily say they're conducting business. If you were doing it at night, it's easy to say, why is she out at that time? I think it makes a lot of sense to me. I think it was calculated. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I think it was calculated that it was during the day in the vicinity of the Bronx Criminal Courthouse. Easy for her if she stopped to justify why she's there.
No, dude, I totally agree with you, man. I mean, it's so much easier to get away in a bustling, busy day than at night. I mean, at night, we always would get everybody, especially in Staten Island where it's less dense. We would get everybody, dude. You see headlights, you see, like, there's no way you're getting away, but now a busy day, tons of traffic, you could easily switch out. And the confusion of everything that's happening during that time, yeah, you could even get pulled over and get away with it easily, because obviously she could obviously, oh, what are you talking about? I'm on my way to work. I'm just taking my family. Yeah, 100%. My main question around it though is the target. Now, I know that it's publicly accessible data that that people are going to court. But does really everybody know that? Does everybody really know how to access that data? And what are their information giving to them that they were going to be at court and when? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Or did he just bump into them at there's a lot here. There's a lot of what occurred that day that needs to come out. There's a lot. But based upon what she did, I think that the charges for that day are absolutely accurate. Based upon what's being alleged, the charges are 100% accurate. Whether they hold up is a different story. But there's a lot that occurred in that car prior to that ride and after that ride that we need to know about. Because I'm pretty sure when you look at prior to and after, you're going to see a lot of police corruption involved in that. And I think it's going to not only be from Mount Vernon, it's going to be from the NYPD as well. Like we just said, they didn't even want her getting perp walked. Right? Why? Because they didn't want this blowing up in the media. They didn't want this blowing up in their face. We showed you the other press conference with her son's third arrest, and this time he takes aim at a cop, and they never blew her up. They were unwilling to do it. What do you think that would do if that was my son or Eric's son or your son? They would blow us up like you wouldn't believe, bro. They'd be all over it. All over it. They were calling for charges on us. So it's unbelievable, dude. I can't go far enough into it that like this needs a serious investigation. And what I've seen from the upper echelon of the NYPD is they can't be trusted to give that serious investigation. What I've seen from the district attorneys across all 5 boroughs, including Staten Island, they can't be trusted. And when we get to the state level, I don't trust anybody at the state level. I don't trust the governor's office. I don't trust Attorney General Letitia James's office to handle this case. Again, Lackard is connected politically to all of these people. It is in their best interest to make this case go away. It is in the best interest to not look any further into what the hell was occurring. And again, he was running a nonprofit here, just like she was running in North Carolina, and what happens with that one. And there's not too much data about what happened with that, with her reentry program, and it looks like it's weird because if you Google reentry programs across the Bronx, dozens of them come up. They have these horrendous websites that don't look like they want anyone to actually, or need anyone to actually go there. You can't get information from there. You could barely contact anyone from there. But then when you look at Nonprofit Explorer, you don't see any of them anyway. So there's something really, really fishy about these reentry programs that need to be looked at, especially the one she was involved in. And I think, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, but you want to talk conspiracy, you want to talk red flags, you want to talk smoke around this entire family. There are fires burning from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, all the way up 95 to New York City, right smack into the Bronx, all the way up to Mount Vernon. Fire burning everywhere. This needs to be seriously looked at from people with serious integrity.
Yeah. If I'll tell you, if I was in gun violence suppression, I would be looking at the father right now. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's an element of desperation in that shooting. There's so much to lose for her. I mean, you lose your family, lose your son, lose your profession, lose your career, lose your, there's so much to lose here, and yet they went ahead and did it, at the courthouse. There's a lot of desperation there. The question is why? What would make them so desperate to do it then? And my question is the perps that he saw, were they the ops, the rivals, or were they? I mean, were they rivals or were they members of his same crew or his same gang that were there to give up info. Were they there for court or were they there to talk? You know, and if they were there to talk, were they afraid that they may give up some certain things? I find it curious that there was a takedown in 2018 of the Slut Gang, right? Big takedown in the Bronx. To me, that looked like there might have been a hole open for them for Dad once he got out of jail to supply the remaining members of Slut Gang with with narcotics. I'm just speculating here, but I can't find an answer to why you do a drive-by right next to a court, unless you felt that these guys were gonna give up certain things, or you felt, basically there's a level of desperation to that that compelled them to do it there. So this is a video of the massive takedown. Not sure if we played this already, but this is the 2018 takedown.
Facing federal charges after a gang takedown in our borough. News
This
12's
is
Christy Reader
2018.
has been digging into the indictment, learning this gang had a rival gang that was taken down a year ago.
Outside the 50th precinct Thursday morning, more than a dozen suspected gang members let out in cuffs, some singing.
They want to see you in the penitentiary. We are innocent. Everything happens for a greater reason.
Some with their heads down, and others proclaiming their innocence.
Innocent.
The NYPD Drug Enforcement Agency and a unit from the Homeland Security Department teamed up for this investigation. It's been more than a year in the making now. And this indictment, it lays out all the crimes that these alleged gang members are accused of. Investigators say the Slut Gang conducted some of their operation out of the Boston Secor houses. Members are accused of selling drugs like cocaine-based marijuana, heroin, and ecstasy. Investigators also say members carried loaded guns and carried out violence against other rival gangs in the Bronx, like the Two Fly YGs and Big Money Bosses. We're looking at video of that takedown that happened last year. That was an historic bust with dozens arrested, over 100 charged. Now these men are also facing time. Reporting for News 12 The Bronx, Christy Reader.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I would have loved to know who their connect is. Yeah.
I think those are all possibilities that we don't know and speculation, but I think that we're all making good assessments, and I think that's ultimately, I would like to hear the transparency in this case of what was the MO. Like, why did Jennifer Lackard actually get involved in this one? Because her son was involved in other shootings. Does this shooting also have a relation to mommy? Right? Was this to protect mommy, or is this to protect daddy's business also? We don't know. So I would like to once that all comes together, that should come out. And those other shootings the son was involved in, let's go back and look in time. Let's get an archive here. Let's find out what were the reason for those shootings. And do those shootings have any relation to what's going on right now? These are answers that we don't know right now. We don't know anything right now. And will they intentionally try to suppress this information? I do foresee them trying to omit information. We've already seen them. We've seen John Shell intentionally not give the son's name. Why would it be any different now? Now they got to protect mommy here. And why do they also have to protect mommy? They have to protect their own identities and their own character. Benjamin Gurley, I'm sure they exchange information. I'm sure they speak often. She praises him. Keon Ramsey, all the people standing that dais, they all speak to her. They're all in. I'm pretty sure. I would put my money. Her number is in their phones, and their numbers are on her phone. So there's no way that this could be tried in the Bronx. There's no way. It has to be moved. The venue has to be changed. It cannot be a fair and impartial trial. Not at all. And even with that, with the woke progressive politics that we have in New York City, if it is tried in New York City on a local level and it doesn't go federal, she's going to be a mommy that was trying to help police reform, and she got caught up, and we know where this is going. It ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you guys, man. I think it's real sad state of affairs of what's occurring in law enforcement. This is just yet another example of all the things that we talk about here that everyone wants to go, oh, you guys are racist, you guys are this, you guys are that, you guys just want to paint all cops as bad. And we're not saying that at all. We're saying that the political leadership of New York State and New York City are corrupted, and the upper echelons of all of our police departments are corrupted across New York State. Not the entirety, but the overwhelming majority. When you look at the NYPD, when you look at Mount Vernon, when you look at a lot of other departments, when you look at the Attorney General's office, there is no integrity coming out of there. They're turning a blind eye to blatant police corruption and all of the things that they claim that they care about. Oh, we care about the Black community. We care about stemming youth violence. We care about people re-entering the prison system. They don't give a shit about any of it because, like you see, one of their main players was directly involved in all of it. And I totally agree with you, Marlon. That's why I'm saying we need to know what the before and the after what occurred, is because there was a high level of desperation there. Why were mommy and daddy directly involved with seeing this hit through? Why were they involved with it? I mean, and I grew up around a lot of bad kids. I unfortunately had a lot of bad people in my family too that did a lot of dumb things. But I could tell you one thing: their parents didn't know what they were doing. They weren't telling mommy and daddy, oh yeah, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. Mommy and daddy had a major part in little Junior's crime sprees. And how big of a part? I say it's a lot larger than just this. I say it's a lot larger than just this. As a matter of fact, he looks like he was working for them, and whatever information they were worried about getting out, they wanted a silence. So, I'd love to know exactly who that rival was and who that ties were. Was it really a rival, or was it a friend turned cooperating witness that they were worried about? There's something here. There's a big story here. Like I said, I think we'll do it for free. Give us accesses to the databases. We would do it for free because something needs to happen here. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely. So, yeah, I got nothing else on the Lackard crime family for now. You guys got anything else?
No, I think it's time for the coffee or donuts. I think we cracked this thing pretty good, and I think we definitely opened up the Pandora's box for the questions that people are asking, and we've already showed that the NYPD intentionally did not, or at least they deflected from the potential questions as far as her son, and what was the police department doing about this? Are they having conversations with Jennifer Lackard? So they definitely intentionally evaded those questions. So again, not surprised. It's disappointing, but not surprised.
Yeah. I think if there's further shenanigans in the 4-4, because they are actually decided to be cops, to do their job, which is what we say all the time, to do your job, and the job is now cracking down on them because they did their job. I hope it comes to light too, so we could we could broadcast it and put pressure on 1PP to cut the bullshit out. Okay, and I hope we talk many times about the job, the NYPD forgetting its core mission. And again, it's not just the NYPD. It's a lot of police departments, especially those in blue cities and blue states, right? You forget your core mission, and your core mission is to be cops and law enforcement. It's not politics. And so I hope that 1PP, realizes this and lays off the 4-4, because, the cops and all the cops involved in this did a great job. And I think they potentially prevented this kid from getting even more emboldened and potentially even shooting a cop again. Or we've yet to find out whatever's behind the father and the mother getting involved here. There could be there could be more that comes out of this that just by doing their job here, they've prevented from happening. So great job on them, and lay off of them, Tish.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot more we know about that we didn't put out, and we will. Blast it
worry.
all over social media if you want. If
I'm
you'd
sure.
like.
I'm sure there's a podcast that will have all out exclusive. They'll put it out.
Yeah.
Extrajudicial punishment and enraging victims.
Yeah. I was cracking up. I was like, oh,
Name it
I
up
was like,
podcast.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, 5 since January, right?
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
that's
what's
wild.
That's it. Only 5.
Only
How many
5.
points did you have?
You know, and here's the thing: they were all arrested by other agencies, dude. Like none of them were arrested by Mount Vernon or the PD. Like I mean, in Marlon Lackard's case, she was. But again, I don't think it was a high level thing. I think it was more like a short term investigation that they were just like, let's move on this. And shout out to the bosses that let them move on it. Honestly, like and I'm not saying they're not in the upper echelon. I don't think it went up to Kenny. I think they went. I think afterwards. Yeah, oh yeah, we got these guys. We put them in the 5s. Yeah, it's them. We got it. Boom, 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 boom. Let's get them in the case. Yeah, no, nothing we could do here, Chief. What are we gonna do? So great work to all you guys. Honestly, that was unbelievable, and it just shows that. The people that have the bad rep don't deserve it, and the people that have the good rep don't deserve it, right? And what I'm talking about is the rank and file versus the upper echelon of the NYPD. Upper echelon does not deserve the accolades and praises that they get, and the rank and file deserves all of that, and they don't get it. They're the people actually doing the job. So shout out to all you guys. Great work. Something that I'm sure you guys could come on and talk about years from now. So stay safe out there, everybody. Let's get over to the coffee and donuts, my friend.
I just hope the hard charging DEA Scott Monroe is fighting for the 4-4 detective squad. I hope that he's fighting for them, for their sanctity. I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Pat Donahue. He's at the DEA meeting as we speak.
Is he? Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was worried about the dental plan. So hopefully we get him on next Friday or Monday, maybe.
Well, he did have Cena, bro. Cena's no joke, man. Cena's good.
Yeah, but something happened though, like where I forget what it was. They could get Invisalign, and I think everyone took advantage of it, and they basically depleted all of the money that was in there. I don't know the whole story. I maybe Pat knows more than me. Obviously, I'm not in that plan. Turco, our dental plan is horrendous. We get $2,000 per family per year. I'll take whatever bullshit plan Scott Monroe comes up with.
I'll take it too. First of all, Turco, the dental plan for LBA sucks. You go for a cleaning, they'll only do one quadrant. They won't do both sides at one time. That dental plan sucks.
Yeah, I have to go. I have only one half of my mouth's clean. I got to go to the other half of my mouth.
It's terrible. You got to go at different times. Thank you for this
so
terrible
annoying.
dental plan. Appreciate it.
And $2,000 per family.
Yeah, 2,000 is nothing in the
I spent I don't even know. I think I spent like $8,000 this year on my kids' teeth. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Lou.
You can wipe your ass with that dental plan.
Yeah. I'm gonna invest in making a lawsuit that a retired guy could run for LBA president.
Yeah,
take another $8,000 and invest it. You fucking motherfucker. Fix the dental plan.
This goes back to what I say. Why is there a separate union for these unions that are too small to have enough? To influence these health plans,
I asked Mullen that same question. Mullins that same question at my BMOC. I said, why are we on all these different plans? It's so stupid. I get for representation. I get, there's issues there. And he basically said for power, he's like, well, these guys, they want their own power, but nobody wants to yield, I'm sure he was guilty of it as well. I'm not saying he was innocent of it either, but
so in turn, you get a shitty dental plan.
It was the real answer, though. It was a true answer.
Yeah.
All right, so in turn, you get a shitty dental plan. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. They get power, you get shitty dental plans. Huh.
Yeah. And they probably got like a free Cadillac plan that you don't know about.
True.
Yeah. The health plan is not that much better. I mean, thank God they actually moved over to United Healthcare, which actually got into a bigger pool. But before that, with GHI, good luck going out of state. If you're retired, forget about it. You're paying out of network cost.
Yeah. Juju's giving me health advice, because he's an actor, a writer, a fake police lieutenant, grifting off the system, So he says, eat healthy and cut out the sweet stuff. Save your teeth. Yeah, you know what could have happened, Juju, is the fact that I didn't have any health care and I had to pay like $35,000 for 2 years for my kids to have it. That could have affected the health of my teeth too for 2 years. But don't worry about that. We care about the health and wellness of all of our members and all the cops. Don't worry about that, Juju.
Yeah, it's like he's giving you all this advice, but he doesn't realize that if you were on the job still, you'd at least have a better pension right now, right?
Yeah.
It's like Faison saying, "You guys were never executives.
Yeah.
You guys were never executives, right?"
Thank God we weren't.
Well, Chief, it sounds like you're advocating for us to go back to the job. Because if I was back on the job, I would most definitely be a sergeant by now. Eric and John would have at least been captains, probably been DIs by now.
Okay? I was supposed to. I was on the list. They wouldn't promote me.
Yeah. So what are we talking about here? Yeah.
I passed flying colors.
Yeah, I mean, come on, like those. And here's the other thing: most of these executives, like the older executives, they didn't even take the test on test day. So they passed the test, but they never studied for the test.
Yeah.
That's why they're idiots.
What day did you take the test, Winston? Because I took the test on Saturday, like you're supposed
Exactly.
to. I never used my religion.
Exactly.
I took the test on test day.
Exactly. And a lot of these executives, they found religion right before the test that they didn't study for, and then they miraculously get 99s when they never got a 99 on a test in their life. Even if even a spelling bee in a third grade level spelling bee, they wouldn't get a 99 on. So
he said we were never executives. Hey, I passed the test, brother. They just wouldn't let me get promoted. I had too much integrity. Maybe if I was Kaz Daughtry, they would have promoted by rocket fuel. Maybe if I was John Shelton, cheated on my taxes and shot someone accidentally, maybe I would have got promoted. But unfortunately, I had alleged CCRBs. No good.
He's right, bro. We should never criticize a mayor, a commissioner, anybody ever again because we weren't them. So you know what? We apologize to Marlon Lackard. We would never in your role. As a deputy commissioner. So we really have no business, according to Winston Faison, to criticize that. Has Winston ever criticized the president of the United States? Because he was never the president of the United States. Who the hell is he to criticize? You don't know what it's like when it's up there. You don't know what those pressures are like. They give you that knife. You got to self-castrate.
Yeah. Nin's very angry today. Nin, you okay?
Yeah, he's up there. Nin, you all right? You want us to send you an ambulance?
Nin says I got CT.
What's the number he could call for help? Call 311, Nin.
Nin says I got CT. He's off the charts, man. You see him on Hinge. You okay, brother?
Yeah. He's not doing well
called me
today.
a fuckface.
Nin's not doing well. Nin's mad because his little butt toy or fuck toy that he likes to call it, the big tall Cuban guy. He put out a piece of paper and he blacked out Nin's partner on it. But he's talking about transparency, so Nin's mad that we called it out here earlier this morning. I'm gonna take a bet. I think I would retweet it, but then you guys would actually have people see it. So I don't want to give you guys that favor. So I'm not gonna do you guys that favor. So
Nin,
all right, let's do it.
I just want to tell Nin I'll be in New York in September. I'm going there for a wedding. So if you want to see me, we can meet up. I'd love to meet you.
He's off his rocker, bro.
And Juju.
Nin's off the medication, bro. 54, EDP, 54.
Yeah, I should pull up some more Juanita Holmes videos to really put him off the deep end.
Yeah. You think she was? You think she was the name? Do you think that she was the line D that was blacked out? I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think that she was the line that was, the non-transparent line that just happened to be blacked out. So weird.
Pretty convenient, right?
Yeah. All right, let's do it. All right, NYPD 8311. What's up, brother? Appreciate you always being here, dude. He says another great show. 25 years ago, you wouldn't even be talking about this topic. I feel for my kids and the next generation. Missed the executive perspective live, working afternoons. Well, you could always replay it here on YouTube. You could still catch the executive perspective. Any shows that you guys miss live, you could obviously always listen to on YouTube or go over to any of the audio platforms where basically everywhere you could watch or listen to podcasts. Working on getting us syndicated as well. So maybe a few radio stations. I know a lot of people are going to be mad about that one. So, we'll see. We'll see. A lot of big things in the future for the Finest Unfiltered. But we appreciate you, NYPD 11. God bless the new generation of cops and the generation after them. Let's keep it rocking out and let's get this, let's right this ship, because I think we could do it. And I honestly think it's going to be the retired guys that lead the charge. So that's what it looks like.
Well, they're gonna have to. There's barely anybody active anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's another point.
Thank you for the coffee donuts, brother.
Anthony says you hit it on the head, John. Once it's found out if the individual was shot at, is it witness snitching or rival gang member, will open up case even more. Look, and that's what I'm saying, but does that case get opened up with the Bronx DA's office? That's my question. Does it stay where it's left? And I would say yes. Unless there's federal intervention, I don't think we're talking about going over city boundaries. We're talking about going into state. We're talking about going on 995 over state. Right? Like, there's a lot of stuff here, people. This is not a joke. And everyone that was involved in that knows exactly what I'm saying is correct. Everyone knows. You know? I'm going to have to, maybe we should notify the DEA. Like, hey, did you guys look at this case? Did you guys take a look at this? Maybe we should do that.
I want to know how many.
Because I don't think the NYPD or I don't think the upper echelon of the NYPD or the Bronx DA's office is doing that.
Do you think Jennifer Lackard attended the 4-3 precinct Christmas party or 4-3 precinct events? I'm sure she did.
Oh yeah, you can't miss a Christmas party, bro. It's the biggest events in the. This is with a
I'm
party
sure
police.
she did. I'm sure she got an award too by the community there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Manhattan North too. I'm sure, right? Those are the big ones.
Oh yeah.
Right? Who'd they have? They paid for who'd they pay for? The girl that was with Ja Rule. They gave like $50,000.
Yeah, Shanti.
Ashanti.
Yeah.
I would have paid like $2,000 for her. Like 50. What century are you in, bro?
Yeah.
What's going on with him? He's probably ratting.
I doubt Jennifer Lackard paid for the Christmas party.
Yeah, I heard he got 3/4, and so he's probably singing. All these guys get 3/4. It's sick.
Yeah, they got bad ankles, man. Don't you understand, John? Got bad ankles.
And did you notice the thing with I noticed it was funny like that they actually mentioned that in oh man, I'm drawing a blank now. The other chief that we talked about that went to Maryland last show. They actually mentioned that in his plea deal that it doesn't preclude him from getting 3/4. It's like, oh yeah, so yeah.
We know who's getting that.
But I'm still getting my 3/4 though, right? He's gonna get 3/4 after he's done with his police.
It's tough to keep those ankles intact,
Yeah. All right, Cobbs 3506. Welcome back, brother. Says excellent deep dive in this case, man. The press painted it as a one-off, but it appears there's a lot more than meets the eye here. Gangster family.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're nicknaming them the Marlon Lackard crime family.
The gangster ties here.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm very curious who Dad was connected to. Which other groups in the past that Dad was connected to running drugs cross country like that? I'm thinking maybe just speculating again. I keep wondering if he was connected to any of these groups, like the BMF guys who were out of Detroit, moving heroin and drugs all across the country. I'm just looking at the time frame. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm telling you, if I would love to be a cop in that case, just to dive into him and see if there are any connections between those guys from the Slut Gang takedown in 2018 to going back to him or going back to North Carolina.
Yeah, no, I would love to just be even from the onset of that shooting. You know what I mean? Like all the way down. There's so much here, dude. It's unbelievable.
I'm curious if there was a connection to the Iron Pipeline with the Greyhound buses, because it was when he had the store. I looked at the case. It was supposedly Spanish names, but I didn't. Could be.
I think they're just moving cars, dude. I'm telling you, and they're probably nondescript. They're using white kids in minivans, families, elderly people. They don't even, and probably some of them didn't even know they were doing it, dude.
Good point.
Hey, drive this car back for me. Oh, I'll give you $1,000. Oh, you don't got to give me $1,000. I'll do it for free. Meanwhile, you don't know you're running 95. You're running 11 kilos of heroin. Yeah, tied into some bad dudes, man. So appreciate it. So who else we got? We got Jack Sanders. He says, does this 61 even have a complainant victim? Is the complainant victim cooperative? Yes, it does. I hope that you weren't a police officer. I hope you aren't that you're asking this question. If there's not a complainant victim, which they already know it was a gang rival, so that comes into the complainant victim. But if you just discharge a firearm into the air, it's called People versus the State of New York. If not, it will be all right. All right. Sorry to jump the gun on you. If not, it will be People State of New York. And who is that? Darcel Clark? This will go nowhere. Charges downgraded. ROR. Well, here's the other thing. Even though they know, is that kid going to be cooperative? Maybe. Because, and the only reason I say maybe is because, but cooperative with Bronx DA? No way. Cooperative with the feds? Absolutely. Because they already tried to do a hit on him. And if these people are connected to who we think they're connected to, they're going to need some protection, you know? So
But here's the scary part. Here's reality, right? I know you're championing for this to go to the feds. But the problem is if this goes to the feds may see this as an opportunity to turn her into a proffer, that she might have a lot of information to turn this case over into something else just to get more gang members, and then she walks away with full immunity. And Marlon, you know exactly what I'm talking about. With these feds love to do proffers, especially working intel. You know damn well they'll get the worst perps, but they'll give them a proffer so they can wrap up a case. So that could easily go to this. That concerns me.
Well, they do a lot of dumb shit. I mean, I'm not gonna lie but at least something will happen. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Like, I still laugh at the whole, they always do that. They're going for a bigger fish. You know, oh, yeah, we'll let Sammy Bull. He murdered 50 people. We'll let him out because he said John Gotti told him to do it. Like, I'm like, it doesn't sound too right to me. You know?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound right to me. Doesn't sound like that guy should see the light of day. Maybe you give him some nice lunch. You give him the upgraded meal plan in jail. But like, I don't let that guy walk free. You know,
meal plan.
I'll give you the upgraded meal plan. I'll give you the Cadillac meal plan, bro.
You shouldn't be walking. You shouldn't be allowed to walk around and tell people a story about your 18th killing, right? Oh, well, number 18, I did this.
Yeah, this other guy, I liked him, but I murdered him. I listened to one of his shows. I was like, this guy kidding me? He was like, yeah, no, I really liked the guy. I respected him. He was a man's man. And then
but that's all right. He deserves a second chance.
like,
I got more CCRBs than he has murders, so I should definitely have my feet 58 forever.
He might have went through the Lackard reentry program, and you didn't. So
I need that program.
You know, and you're still not eligible to be a violence interrupter. So, like, who are you?
Yeah, how do I get? Damn, how do you get these luxury spots?
You got to get arrested.
Yeah, I need to step up my game.
This is a good
Grand
one.
Rising.
This is a good one. The Smith 72. Oh, Mike, great job on the fundraiser. Hold on, let me pull that up real quick. So, what was the fundraiser? It was for Kat Curries, and who's the wife of Detective Frank Curries, a retired NYPD detective. So I believe Mike was able to get it up close to. Hold on, let me redo this.
No, Mike did
we're
a
almost at
great job.
85,000 now. So great work on you and Mike Famey's part. So any of you guys that could, if you guys could donate or even just share it out or just say a prayer, much appreciated here. Let me pull this up on the screen real quick. This is the GoFundMe. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll post the link in the chat too.
Yeah, so links in the chat. I actually donated as well. I recommend everybody, if you got anything, you do it. Even if it's $5, do it. You know, if you could do it. Even if you can't, say a prayer. I heard that his wife's condition turned pretty bad yesterday. She's awaiting a double lung transplant.
Wow.
Obviously, they have two beautiful little kids. So, you know, obviously Kat's in our prayers, Frank's in our prayers, the whole family. So anything you guys could do to help, pray, donate, share, all of the above, whatever you could do, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I just want to say, I said it Wednesday. I'll say it again. Mike, I really appreciate what you do for families, man. Mike has a huge heart, man. He really goes out and he really tries hard. He tries with full heart. And I said, Mike's heart is as big as his muscles, man. If anybody knows Mike, he's a big dude. So, Mike, I really appreciate what you're doing. God bless his family. Seriously. My heart's out to them.
Absolutely. And great job on the fundraiser, guys. You know, it's good. The last thing he needs to worry about, medical expenses are huge, especially when you're moving someone through different states and now all of the care that's needed. Medical care does not cover those. Obviously, we've deep dived into that before, unfortunately.
Scary.
So,
It's
yeah.
it's you know, when I was battling with Derek and I saw some ridiculous comments on social media like why do you need a fundraiser and you have insurance when you're going through a medical crisis just as this and you find out your insurance really lets you down. It's a scary time when you need prescriptions and they're telling you it's 10,000 for this pill and 15,000 for this pill and you'll do whatever it takes. It's a scary time. So support this family while you can.
Absolutely. So Kat, Frank, stay strong. We got your back. And yeah, please, whatever you guys could do, we appreciate it. So Smith says, John, did you do your daily back row machine today? You know what's funny is I went to like an old school gym. It was called Wolf Fitness. And I forget where it was. It was down the shore. I was in Brigantine this summer. Awesome. I haven't seen a back row machine in like years because most of my working out is done in my garage. Like I have all the stuff I need in my garage. I have a ton of stuff that I need everywhere. I have other stuff laid out throughout my whole house. So I either in my backyard, I'm in my office, I'm in my garage. I do all different workouts in different places. I got my, the fabled Muay Thai bag, the yellow Muay Thai bag. But I actually did the back row machine just because I was like, I haven't done this exercise in years. But for those of you that don't know, he's actually making fun of Huge Fat Loser because what he's saying is, and that's Aaron Lohman, what he's saying is that basically anytime he does a workout video, he's only ever doing the back row machine. So no, Mike, I haven't done it today, but I'm gonna do some pull-ups. Maybe I'll do a little rows with some dumbbells.
And I just want to say, not only is he a huge fat loser, but he's an extreme loser. He's supposedly right. He's a sergeant of health and wellness, but God forbid you say anything about the internal pressures of the job. It's you. You're the problem, not the job. The job doesn't have any issues. There's no issues with corruption. There's no issues with potential pay-for-play with promotion. There's no issues with cops getting, just completely abused at a general population. None of that's going on. It's all in their head. So, to Huge Fat Loser, yeah, thanks for your input, brother.
Yeah, it's all the cops' fault. Don't ever blame the NYPD.
No.
Blame yourself.
It's all yours.
Blame yourself. Who cares? Who cares if your overtime got cut because there was a racketeering, extortion, and cash for ass program? That has nothing to do with it. Be happy.
But if you champion for the job, you get special assignment like me.
And you could pitch your own workout products.
Just check him out on Instagram. Huge Fat Loser. If you want to see how to do it,
back row daily. Like, you know how I do arms? I'm going to start doing arms twice a week. I got to start this week. Friday is a good day to do arms. Like you do arms on like Monday, and then you do it again on Friday before you go out. But I don't go out anymore. I'm a loser. So
Friday.
But if you
Friday
do it Friday, you get that pump.
Baby.
And then even if you go out Saturday, you could do another couple of sets just to pump it up right before you go.
gotta get swole.
You gotta get
another
swole, baby.
done. There we go.
So Cobb says, Eric, I just went to the LBA dentist for a cleaning. Hygienist was very soft on the eyes. Incidentally, anyway, she did the entire set, $20 copay. Let me get you your next one on me, brother. Have a great weekend. Cobbs, we appreciate you. Eric's actually not allowed. He has an issue with dental hygienists. He's not allowed to go, especially ones that are soft on the eyes. So his wife has barred him from doing that. But if you could send us a PM with the address, we'd appreciate it.
Can I get a virtual cleaning? Yo, Cops, thanks, brother.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else, boys, before we run out of here? We got about 3 minutes left.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm sure Marlon has housekeeping.
No.
Show us the deep
You
dive.
know what it is? I always realize later on that I'm like, damn, I
We
should
missed
mention
it,
that
yeah.
before we go. Yeah. But I do want to say one thing. I hope that the noise from the street hasn't popped up too much on the stream in the background for me, because we're having a real big problem here, and it's driving me out of my damn mind with these mufflers in the city. These mufflers are getting like way out of hand with these damn BMWs, and they're backfiring. Tish, if your people are watching this right now, you guys got to start enforcing these mufflers again. It's like ruining my neighborhood, you know. And plus we have these guys doing donuts in the intersection, and it's just beyond infuriating now. We get it, like it could be like 2 a.m. in the morning, 5 a.m. in the morning, and these cars are driving by with loud ass mufflers. Yeah. So you guys got to start enforcing that. It's just ruining the city. Yeah. But that's about it, guys. We thank you for joining us, and we always appreciate you spending your morning with us, and we hope that you have a great weekend. And if you're on patrol or if you're out there, you stay safe and you stay alert. Okay. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, I just want to say it's 2 hours and 59 minutes into it. We're about to hit the 3-hour mark. Thank you, everyone. Like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate the chat, friends and listeners. Awesome engagement as always. Mike, thank you for what you do for this family. God bless them, and God bless the detective's wife. Man, my heart really goes out to her. And Mike, you're an awesome dude, man. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. I think it's time for you to start a not-for-profit organization, not like Jennifer Lackard, but to help out with families. We appreciate it, brother. And if you're new to the channel, check us out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday live, and where we bring facts over politics. So thank you so much, everybody. John, close us out, brother. Have a good weekend. Take care.
Yeah, just one thing real quick. Just we lost an officer this week who went overseas to get a cosmetic procedure done. Mother of 3, beautiful girl.
Again,
good cop. I mean, ladies, come on. Cut the bullshit. You know what I mean? Like stop going overseas. If you got to do shit like that, which I say I don't think you need to do. If I showed you a picture of the girl, you would say there's no reason she needs to get any cosmetic procedures done. Work with the ass you were given, work with the breast you were given, work with the lips you were given. I mean, look, me and Eric are some ugly guys. Maul's not that bad looking, and we did pretty well for ourselves. We're not getting any cosmetic surgery here. I mean, did you see this nose? Like, look at it. It's like caving in at this point. It's like,
dude,
my nose
I
is
got cauliflower ears. I broke my nose twice boxing. Yeah, Maul's the handsome one.
My nose is totally crooked the other way. Like, I mean, look at this girl, beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, you guys.
What a shame.
Like, if you're gonna do it at reputable places. Do not go overseas. Good cop. It's just, I heard it might have been to get a reduction. I'm not sure, or I don't know what it was for. I get these things could affect your mental health. I understand it. I'm getting older. My body's changing too. I understand it. But more importantly is that you're here. Then you're going to risk your life for a procedure like that. And I really think it's about time that, honestly, all of these fraternals start talking to their women about it, especially with the women-driven fraternals. Like, it's got to end, man. We keep losing women cops to this in New York. It's a big trend that's happening throughout the entire city too. So it should go up to even the city levels where they should be offering alternatives for women. Like, do not go overseas, and understand the dangers of going overseas, what could happen. So prayers to this officer, prayers to her husband and kids. Totally unnecessary. So I just wanted to say that. And again, the last thing, if you guys are going through anything, talk to somebody. Do not make a decision to end your own life, right? It's a temporary solution. It's a temporary fix, but it's going to be permanent. You're not going to be able to come back from that. There's no coming back from that decision. We've all been in bad spots in our life, and very bad spots. You will get past this, right? This too shall pass. So if you need to talk to somebody, talk to someone, whoever that is. Don't be afraid to talk to people. That's it. That's all I got to say.
It's really sad to hear this happen to another woman. It's it really is crazy. If you're a woman out there and can't tell you what to do with your body or your money, if you really want to do it, you got to spend the money and do it somewhere in the States, or just don't do it at all. It really is, honestly. Like you said, she's beautiful. She doesn't need to do that. It's absolutely, it's sad. It really is. Truly is.
Yeah. Yeah, she had two or three kids, I think.
3 kids, I think I read.
Yeah, so.
And listen, I tell the mommies out there, wear those mommy scars with pride. You had 3 kids. You look great. Wear those scars with pride. With pride. Don't try to remove them. Just embrace them. So.
Yeah.
I always thought flaws are sexy anyway. Anyone that's completely flawless, that's more like AI. Flaws are sexy. So.
Yeah, winter time's coming. You need a thick chick to keep you warm. So there's nothing wrong with that. So
flaws are sexy though.
Yeah, absolutely. So all right, people. Appreciate everybody being here. Everybody have a great, safe weekend. We will be back Monday morning. See ya. Finest Unfiltered.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?